All right. Okay, well, let's get going here. This is our board priorities workshop. We provided you with the existing priorities and the existing infrastructure plan for the next 5 years, as well as the 5-year plan, and pretty much the meeting is you guys to talk, and we'll be here to answer any questions. But
I thought you had a 2-hour presentation.
I do have a little 2-hour presentation. April Fools. But no, it's y'all's meeting, and talk about your priorities. So I'll turn it over to you guys.
Excuse me. Go ahead. You go ahead. I have a question. Anything that we put, if we make a suggestion to move 319 over to the left, do we have to vote on that? Is what we do here today, do we vote on it?
No, this is just a discussion. This is for you guys, kind of a planning workshop, or whatever you want to call it, a workshop for you guys to talk about stuff. Talk about your priorities and wants and do's and don'ts. So with that, we'll be quiet and wait till y'all pull our chain.
Howard, I'm going to kind of turn it over to you. You kind of wanted the workshop, so I didn't know what direction.
No, I don't have a specific direction, except to say that I think we need to prioritize all the things in our county that we're going to spend money on before we continue to keep on spending money. And what we're doing now is, as every issue comes up, we either take a vote to pay for it, which we usually end up doing, and there's no long-range plan.
What would be an example of something like that?
Community center?
Well, or matching $20,000 for signs for the Big Bend Byway, okay? It's anything. Not to pick anything in specific, it's anything that we're spending money on. If we don't have the money set aside for what we consider the priorities, then we're sort of lost.
Did you go over the 5-year
I did it.
plan? Do you want to change some of those priorities?
I was going to say there's spending out to 5 years and priorities, but based on that, we can change that up. But that's already set out for the next 5 years on projects, etc.
Like, for example, isn't there something in here about a soccer complex a couple of years
Soccer
ago?
complex, yep.
Well,
There's paving of resurfacing of roads, etc. Yep.
yeah. So, all of those are great projects. And right now we have high taxes, and we're looking at another year where the property appraiser's office saying we might not be any better, maybe a little worse. And while those are nice things, I think that we need to prioritize what's the most important. Rather than any project, maybe we look at things like, what do we need to finance in the most important things? Always start off with the sheriff's department, the fire and EMS. And
So this is not necessarily related to capital projects, because I believe
It's all 1 cent sales tax.
there are no capital projects paid for with property tax.
Very small.
If we cut all of them, you really couldn't lower the millage rate.
No.
So I don't. It
Right.
sounds like
No, I'm not talking about going over those earmarked funds. But when we look at those earmarked funds, we also have to say, when we use them up for this, is there anything else on the table that we should be looking at? And if there is, then is that less a priority or more a priority?
I guess, for example, would be if we spend MSBU money on a fire station and not 1 cent sales tax, does that mean we could have lowered the MSBU for fire?
There you go.
I guess that's decisions we got to make as politicians.
And, our county administrator has pointed out to us and encouraged us to look at the establishment of significant maintenance and facilities updates, rather than as an issue that comes, as an emergency each time we end up spending more money on something.
Right.
And so that fund, or however we want to look at that, that may be one of our priorities, to really establish a maintenance schedule and have it funded so that we can adhere to it.
That, for example, being paid to replace the air conditioner at the board office.
Exactly.
I mean, I really don't know what to say next. Have any specific suggestion or any more specific direction to take the conversation in?
Well, sure, I can say things. I was hoping to hear other people, but
I'll weigh in a little bit. For me, more concept than specifics. Like Howard pointed out, decline in revenues. I mean, we all know this ICE fiasco I guess it's starting to hit us, and it may get worse over time. To me, I think we're in a mode of, I think we should be in a mode where we spend our time focusing on what we have. And in my mind, if it amounts to an expansion of, what we do, it's pretty much off the table for me. I mean, I think that we shouldn't be in a mindset of adding anything new that's going to cost additional money. Soccer complex is great, but right now when we're facing potential revenues, to me, it's not a goal for me,
And that's not a goal until, it's projected out until 2007.
Right,
It's not
well,
something we're talking about.
Exactly. I mean, but anything like that represents, if it requires us to spend money next year that we're not spending this year, or having manpower next year that we're not having this year, in my mind, it should be off the table.
Ever.
Well, now in the current climate, not ever, but we learned that David mentioned last week at another meeting that some of us were at, that our county buildings right now, everyone with the exception of 2 has a leaking roof. So I don't want to build anything new until we focus on what we have and let's start making those repairs. To me, it's more of, I've seen this meeting in the past come out with a list of ideas like, we want to have public transportation, we want to expand this, we want to add this, and I don't want to add anything new. I want us to focus on let's making what we have much better before we try to add new.
I tell David almost every meeting is, don't create any new projects. Take what we got, where we got, and make them more efficient.
What if we added a boat ramp? Would you still not want to have that?
If it comes under the money that we have available, then basically we can do it. But if we have to,
Well, say we got a grant to buy a shelf line program, but we're required to staff it with a person to collect fees. That's an expansion.
you have to evaluate the good and the bad of that. If you brought me a project and you said we can buy this out here, and it's a great benefit to the county. Sometimes
I guess what I'm looking for is not just a black and white delineation.
You can't have
saying
a-
we're
yeah.
absolutely not going to do anything that costs a dime more. But rather that you're willing to weigh it out if it's a great benefit to everybody and it doesn't cost that much. Because my argument would be, there is a certain cost of quality of life, having things for your kids to do, and those things aren't free. And I'm not advocating big government or anything like that. I don't know if that's opposite of what you're saying.
In the example you gave, I would probably be opposed to it right now, even though in concept, I'd love for us to have that, or even the Upper River Bridge at the Wakulla River. That's a great example of, and I know in the past boards have looked at that. I'd love to figure out a way to buy that and use that, but right now, if it meant that it's going to increase our costs next year, I'd probably be opposed to it, just because I just truly believe that we've got more problems coming that we need to be prepared for, or we're going to be right back in the situation we've been in the past. So, all for it, but if it's gonna stretch us thinner, I'd probably be opposed until times get better.
My position would be basically if there's something that's got a long-term benefit that may not be available next year that we can do. If there's a project that's got a long-term benefit, like a boat ramp, and let's say that we would not have the ability to buy it next year or any time after, then basically I'd say we go ahead and make the sacrifice. I will make a sacrifice for a long term. If it's a long-term benefit and it can be determined that it's a benefit, then I would today make that sacrifice. I'd take money from somewhere else. I wouldn't build the next road. I would pull money. Let's say a boat ramp. If we could buy a boat ramp if we could buy a boat ramp this year that would not be available next year, I'd pull the money from the road department to buy that ramp. If possible.
Yeah, if allowed. Yeah.
And in all probability, buying a piece of property like a boat ramp or water access is not going to be cheap, and it's probably going to be coming with a grant if we're able to get it, or with the addition of significant recreation, set-aside dollars, whatever is there.
Take aside right by Parrish's house. You remember when the board had the opportunity to buy the 15 acres, but you had to buy the house and have a education center, and that did get shot down, because that was an enormous ongoing cost.
Well, yeah, and I'll take you back even further from when the board had the opportunity to buy it. At one point, the board had the opportunity to receive it free without a match. And
The same property?
the same property, the exact same property before another house was built on it, or two houses that are there now.
And we're talking Upper River Bridge.
Upper Bridge, where Parrish's.
Right. That property was offered to the board, and the board, I'm speaking communal in the past, okay? I was not on the board then, but I sat in the audience and I listened to it. And the chairman of the board at that time, I believe, said, we could never afford to upkeep that, we're not going to do it. And the upkeep on that meant that we put out some signage that said, this is a tree, and that's water. And, some
Well,
very...
a little bit more involved in that. It was a house that had to be maintained. It's kind of like with the Maritime Center right now.
But the house that had to be maintained was a house that was suitable for rental for affairs and things like that, where it could have been a money-making proposition for the county. Anyway, the board declined it. So the board has had opportunities in the past to take advantage of some things, and it may again in the future with a grant. But outside of a grant, to really get a hold of a decent piece of access property to river or bay is going to be difficult.
Sounds like you're on opposite sides of the issue here then. Or are you on the same side? Because Ralph said he wouldn't take it even if it was free, if it meant increased cost. You just advocated that the county should have taken it, even if there were some costs associated, just to get it. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I think that I'm somewhere between those two commissioners on the other side of the table. If something comes up that this board feels makes sense to do, even though there might be an expenditure out there, knowing that in a down economy, your ability to pick up a piece of property might be better than you wait for things to turn around and all of a sudden the prices are out of sight again.
The equestrian center is another example. That was free, but we still got to pay a light bill and a power bill. But for the cost, the ongoing cost of it, I think it's worth it.
We're getting ready, but on that, we're getting ready to turn all of that over to the Horseman Association.
Which is
But
even better.
that's right. But going to what Dr. Kessler was saying is one of the examples we've got to be careful of, and what he's trying to get at is like when the county had the opportunity to take the water system over in the county. They said, nah, we don't have the money, we're not going to do it. Guess what? That was the one thing you should have taken. Because now if you'd had that, things would be looking a lot better. So, I mean, that's just, I think what he's trying to say is everything's going to be a little different, and if an opportunity comes up, we need to be able to
It's a rare thing to have a revenue stream, though. Most everything is
Right,
a revenue
most
stream.
everything, that's right.
My deal is that you can do some of these things, but you can swing money around from something that's not enough. If you can get a chance to buy a boat ramp, that'll be here forever, and not resurface a particular road that you can do at any particular time in the future, then I say basically buying a boat ramp. If you've got here again, this is like we got roofs leaking in all our fire stations. There, you cannot afford in any case not to fix those roofs, because when that roof starts leaking, everything below that roof starts going downhill. So you have got to switch funds from somewhere to stop that roof leaking, because delayed maintenance will kill you.
Right, and I think in the creation, Commissioner Thomas, in the creation of the 5-year plan here, if you'll really look at it, which is really your spending, it's your capital spending. If you look at it outside of the cars, the vehicles for the sheriff's department and the road resurfacing, outside of that, when you pull down to parks and recreation and to public facilities, the only thing that we've got in for the next 5 years that's new is our fire and EMS facility, and then the soccer complex on the out years. In trying to get to what you were saying, we got to fix what we got before we add anything. But the reason we brought the fire and EMS facility forward is do you keep putting good money into a bad building, and you still have a bad building that you just spent $200,000 on, and you still got an old building, or do you go ahead and get rid of those buildings and build a new facility that's going to be cheaper for you? And buy it out of the 1-cent sales tax. That was the purpose of this, is to try to get to that. You either fix buildings or you replace buildings, and that's what that was for. So there's no expansion. This was actually a reduction, just like when you're going to talk about it here shortly, the ambulances. We're actually reducing the number of ambulances we're having to maintain, and that agenda item reduces the amount of facilities that we had to maintain. So just to understand that we went in with that mode of let's maintain what we got.
I agree, though, but I think in boards past, the reason that it costs so much to maintain now is because it wasn't maintained as it came up, and so it just continued to deteriorate. And even when we were flush with money, we would find another project, and chasing grants, and grants, in my opinion, grants have a tendency to make the tail wag the dog, where we wouldn't have a desire to go spend that money until that grant is dangled out there, and then we have to maintain it if we agree to bite that carrot. And so I just want us to be careful of that.
To the best of my understanding, David has put this 5-year plan forward to accommodate for maintenance, for growth and whatever, and I think probably most of this is a very close to accurate opinion of going forward. At least it's a roadmap for going forward, and it identifies our income and our expenses. Now, one thing that bothers me that Howard mentioned is that, and this is sort of off the subject a little bit, if I hear that we're matching $20,000 or whatever funds with the TDC to put up signs, I'm going to vote against that kind of project. That kind of matching money, I'm just not going to vote for. If it's $1 that will save 9 on maintenance, I'll vote for that. And I'll vote to not resurface a road if we can buy a boat ramp, or if we can buy something that will not be available that'll benefit the county in the future, then I'll stretch out. I'll stretch out and vote for that sort of thing.
Let me take a little different tack and get off.
Before this, because it's sort of pertinent, and I guess I'm taking what Commissioner Moore has said is going forward in the future, and actually that $20,000 for that signage as a match, I think was a unanimous vote at a time where we were trying to cut back, and there were furloughs being done and whatever else, and we ended up going ahead and saying, we the board, past tense, go ahead and take $20,000 out of our general fund and use it. So that's what we have to be careful about, and that's why this priorities workshop is a good thing.
Let me take a little different tack. I'm going to get off the capital improvements thing, because I don't think that really affects our property taxes. I think the real one of the real priorities we need to really seriously start discussing is if we lose that ICE money, is it our priority to spend 90% of property taxes for public safety? That's, to me, is the biggest priority we need to make our minds up on. Are we willing, is that the heads and shoulders above the rest, the biggest priority for our tax dollars?
I'll weigh in and say, historically, common sense says health and welfare of the population is our biggest issue, and whatever that percentage has to be, it may be different than what you're proposing, 90%, but it always has been and always will be a significant portion of our budget. What we fail to do is to really get our arms around that one budget, which seemed to have been a deep hole, no matter what we've been told about accessibility of numbers. It's a difficult thing in the past to get our arms around. Now, how much and I'm still confused on this forfeiture and whatever that thing's called that the sheriff's under right now, and how that's going to shake out and what that means to us, moving forward. As I understand it, they're on their own right now, but if they're on their own, that doesn't mean we have to step in there and come to their rescue should they have problems. And that's what I was fearing when we had that other discussion. We just turned it over to them, and it's not fair, and I can understand that also, but I don't want to be working both ends of that spectrum where you're on your own, but every time you get in trouble, let's bail you out. That's not going to work.
Well, and the reason I said 90% is if that ICE money goes away, we got a $1.7 million gap to fill, right? Two ways we can do that.
They'll take, if you lose that ICE, they'll take all of the property taxes.
We can raise the millage rate to 10 mills, max out the PST, and probably be okay. Are we willing to, is public safety that important? That's my question.
Public safety is that important. No, I'm not willing to go to 10 mills and max out the PST. I mean, I would not be
Those are the kind of choices we're looking at. If we're not going to do that, what do we cut then to give them what they say they need, or do we simply say, here's the amount of money you're going to have to make it work?
As I understand it right now, they already are on their own. Am I wrong about that, Mr. Edwards?
They are on their own. Now, ultimately, like I was telling you, the general fund is responsible for all funds like that. But it's up to you guys to say, all right, y'all figure it out. You got your own fund now. Y'all figure out how to make it work within your own existing revenue, or say, we're going to reach back here to the general fund and pull some money forward. That's y'all's choice.
You know what I would do if I were them? If they went to the board and the board said, we're not going to make up your thing, fine, the jail is yours. Take it back. We don't want it. That's a board function, right, David? The jail,
yes.
They don't have to do the jail. They can just say, all right, you don't want to make up our budget shortfall?
We can privatize it. We can privatize the jail if we had to.
We're bleeding money on the jail. It's yours.
Do they have to take it from us? It's our responsibility to have a jail. It's not the sheriff's responsibility to have a jail. It's our responsibility to have a jail. I don't think we could just say, okay, now it's your responsibility.
Well, they can give it back to us.
Well,
they can say, fine, don't give us funding for the jail anymore. You run it.
Well, I think ultimately what it's going to boil down to is you guys determining what level of funding the sheriff's department should have.
That's
right.
I mean,
And we have to, when you get back to that sheriff in the jail, we have to provide a jail. Okay, it's our responsibility as the board under the Florida Constitution statutes that we're under. But, we don't have to have every minor offender in that jail. And I know that they use anklets and electronic devices now, and we can use more of that.
We talked to the sheriff about that, actually.
Okay.
And work release also.
Right. There are ways to cut that number down, okay? But that the absolute of a jail, we have to keep an addition that we have there for renting beds. And if that opportunity does not exist in the future, then that's a thing that gets shut down. I mean, we're not going to staff it, we're not going to use it, we're just going to have the minimal jail that we need.
The minimal jail.
Right.
If we get rid of, and we asked them for that number, they get rid of those prisoners. Even at the minimal jail, we still got to make up $1.7 million. That's what.
Because we budgeted counting on the ICE funds.
Well, no, if we lose the ICE funds, the ICE funds generate $2.3 million. Of that 2.3, 1 point whatever is spent to service those prisoners.
3.3.
All right.
Yeah.
So that money is spent to service those prisoners. So if you take the prisoners away, you take that cost away, right? What you're left with is $1.7 million in revenue that we'll no longer receive.
Now, when you take those prisoners away, you've got to take the amount of service that went along with those.
Take that out.
That's right.
Take that out, we're still 1.7 million.
You're 1.7 million
One of the
upside
things
down.
That bothers me a little bit about the sheriff's department. When we were laying off people, it's my understanding in the county, EMS, fire, county, and whatever, we dropped 90 employees over the last 2 years. Is that somewhere correct?
I'd have to look at that, but just the FTE chart that we passed out the meeting, the previous works,
I believe it
pretty
was-
much tells the picture there.
90.
30.
Sheriff's
Yeah.
Department started with either 167 or 187 employees in 210. They ended where we are today with 167 or 180, whatever the number is. There was not a drop. There was not one person less than what they started with. Everybody will say, well, we can't cut. But I've never seen anything that can't take some off. It's we had our people, and I don't know how we can ever go back and repay them for them not being paid when nobody else took a cut. Our people took a cut, so maybe we can. I guess there's some. But
Right. And I think ultimately it's going to boil down to what are you guys willing to fund the sheriff's department? I think it boils down to those taxes, because right now you're about 90% of the ad valorem taxes goes towards goes into that fine and forfeiture fund, and is but I think the bigger and the harder question is, how do we, if we do not lose the ICE inmates, how do we reverse the dependency on that and turn it into, like for ha-has, the ICE inmate revenue now would be our once it sales tax. For all our capital projects and stuff. How do you reverse that? How do you quit depending on it and depend on it for capital needs? You see what I'm saying? That to me, that's a tough leap, because it's easy to say we lose it and sheriff's you got to cut 1.7. Okay, that's easy, but to reverse it in midstream, to me, that's a harder.
I'll ask
nut to crack.
I'll ask another question. If I had 100 of the citizens in here, and I said, I'm going to give you not quite the same service that you had, or I'm going to raise your taxes. Which would you prefer, not having quite the fire and EMS and so forth, or would you like for me to raise your taxes? I got a feeling they're going to say, stay away from my taxes. I don't need quite the service. So the board understands, unless it's absolutely drastic, I'm not going to vote for any taxes. I've said I wouldn't, and so far I've stayed with that. And that may be right or wrong, but that's what I told that I would not do. So my own deal is I'll cut their services before I'll raise their taxes.
But remember again, I'm certainly not being uncertain, because you do an excellent job. When we sit here and have general discussions about property taxes and people pay too much and I'm not going to raise them, 7.5 of the 8.5 mils goes to the sheriff's department. That's the gorilla in the room. We can say, well, we're going to cut the parks department. Well, you just cut 10 grand. That's a drop in the bucket. And I think you can talk to Greg. All the constituents went through a series of cuts, right, Greg? Try to get down to as bare bones as possible. So when we're making, policy statements about I promise this or I promise that, we're talking about the sheriff's department. Period. At least 90% of it. It's not everybody thinks, well, they got too many employees at the board office, or well, I saw the fire truck at Meyer Jeans, so they're wasting money. Well, that's probably not the case. Peanuts, exactly. The thing to do what David's talking about is real easy. You either cut expenses or you raise taxes. Because right now we're relying on that revenue to subsidize the sheriff's department. It's propping up the millage rate is what it's doing basically. We're subsidizing the millage rate, keeping it artificially low by using the housing prisoners' money to support the sheriff's department. Because if you look in this year's budget, of their budget, 7.47 million is ad valorem taxes. 2.75 million is from housing and prisoners. So if we didn't have the housing prisoners and had the same level of service, they would be at 10 mils. 10 mils.
When you're talking about that, those numbers there, is that shutting down the entire jail facility or just the ICE?
Just the ICE.
Okay.
We got to keep a jail for the county prisoners.
Okay.
And that what that was cut, Howard, is the staff associated with only the ICE prisoners. Some
Reduction in the medical.
Reduction in the medical.
And some
Miscellaneous.
There's no cutting of administrative staff, any of that stuff.
It was basically 10 officers, I think is what it
Yeah.
was.
I think in the final analysis, if you ask 100 people, do you want less services or more taxes?
Well, I don't know if it boils down to that, but I think you're.
I will take you to Las Vegas and bet you on it.
Well, I think
Let me
that.
take Jerry to task on that one.
Okay, good. Tell me where I'm wrong.
Republican Party says, I'm talking now so I can say this.
You're a good man, Randy.
We need to cut, we need to cut, we need to cut, we need to get rid of our deficit, we need to get rid of it. All right, you want to cut Social Security? Oh, hell no. No. You want to cut the defense budget, which is a major part? Nope.
I would
Don't
cut
touch
it.
that. Well, you know what I'm saying.
Okay.
You ask them, what do you want to cut? Just cut. I don't know. But, I mean, we don't have that luxury.
Well, we do to some degree, because just about every meet, we vote for something that's an expansion.
Yeah, but they don't
You know?
raise ad valorem taxes.
But it's still a drain on our resources that we could be spending elsewhere.
Well, I agree with you on some things, but if it's a 1 cent sales tax, for example, if it's a grant, if it's a impact fee, we can't spend them on something else.
Well, let's
If
talk
it's a
about
road-
1 cent sales tax. When that came about, we had a big need and we paved a lot of roads.
Correct.
And we know that maintenance need is going to continue and we're going to need to repave those roads. But my thinking, if we just look at today, not what happened for the last 15 years, our biggest need right now is not roads, looking at just the categories of the 1 cent sales tax. Facilities is a bigger need than roads.
And I just talked
So
to David about that. We can...
maybe we need to
can change
reallocate that percentage.
That's what I was just talking about. We take the money that we've got and don't pave the roads, shift it around.
I would shift it and put it towards facilities.
A magician at shifting.
I would, yeah, and you're right. I think your allocations, but you can't ignore not resurfacing roads. That's the problem that you can't.
You can for a
Well,
couple of years.
that's the problem is we have for the past 5 or 6.
You may have to
So,
for the next 2.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Just understand, we got miles and miles, and Randy can tell you, as a road surface fails, you have base failure. Guess what happens when that happens? Your cost of resurfacing just escalates. You're back into the same thing. So you got to be able to do both.
We may not need the same allocation.
You may not need the same allocation, but you just can't say we're not going to resurface.
No, let's just change the percentage structure.
I don't mean that as hardcore.
Right.
Generally speaking.
But I think what I'm hearing is that there's a consensus, at least among the 4 of us, that facilities, maintenance, and management is a priority. Is that fair to say? So that's one.
I can also say boat ramps are a priority, and I can say that children are a priority. I can say that...
They're all a priority, but they would have to be lower on the
Well,
list.
where do you want to place them? Okay.
I don't know how we make a list like that.
Well, I
Say
think
which one's your favorite child, put them in a list.
well, let's go on dollars and cents, and which one is going to give more bang for the buck for our citizens. I think that's where our decision, not what you like or I like, it's what's best for our citizens. So I think we're all, that's why I said, it looks like we're all agreed that facilities management and maintenance and replacing these devices that are about to fail or have failed, that is number one.
In my mind, that should be a part of any budget, is repair and maintenance.
So it hasn't been, and now that it's appearing in it, maybe we should have it appear larger. I think what you said regarding to, earlier about the taxes, and, in order to do this, we have to raise the taxes, we have to do this. I fully understand that, and that's what this board is constantly yes, you did.
We didn't raise taxes.
In order to, if this thing happened, then we'd have to...
Ice thing.
Yeah,
If
sure.
we kept the same level.
Sure. Right. Exactly right.
Yes, I think.
Right. So if you want to keep the exact level of funding, which is a problem, I don't think we have the luxury of keeping an exact level of funding, and that's what we have to cut back on. So if we start with, there is no tax increase, hopefully there'll be some tax decrease, but there is no tax increase, then that's the amount of money we have to
That's going to be
spend.
my position. That's
Okay.
We've kept the millage rate the same the last 3 years.
You lowered it last year.
Huh?
You lowered it from 8.75 to 8.5. Not last year, I guess.
First year, obviously,
Yeah.
right. But even in a decline, but that was with adopting the PST, which
Right.
one could easily argue, well, yes, you raised taxes, but when you look at,
I don't think there's an argument there.
well, when you look at the fact that we stopped spending reserve money to prop the budget up and we started putting money back towards reserve, I think it's off, you know what I mean? It wasn't just spent on more hiring or whatever. But anyway, and kept the millage rate the same or lower, the millage rate, that's going to continue to be my position, is that that's really not an option,
Okay.
raising.
And that puts a limit on how much money we have.
Exactly.
Okay, and then with that, how much money, now it becomes our job to say, well, and not picking on the sheriff's department, but we started picking on him, so we might as well finish.
Of that money we're talking about, 80% goes to him. And that's what's real.
Right, and now we have to set new levels of funding those things. Right, and that's our job.
And I wish there was alternate way to fund law enforcement, because here's in my dream world, this is what would happen. It would be, David, what did we end up, the number of every household paid the same amount, like $200, I think.
That's a flat.
Something like for a MSTU?
Yes, if you could do that,
Yeah, it was a little over $200, yeah.
if you could do that, my position would be, let's make it like garbage, that low income is excluded, everybody pays the same thing, we fund the sheriff's department for that. There's $200 is to fund law enforcement. Can't do that, unfortunately, with the way the legislation, the rules are written.
It would have to be a millage. It'd have to be a...
It'd have to be a millage.
MSTU, not a BU.
And then I don't think I'd really want to do that, because we'd be right back in the same, it wouldn't make any difference. Only difference it would make,
Law enforcement portion.
only difference is it would make it more evident what portion was going to the sheriff's department.
David, you were talking about, we got a surface or whatever. Let's say we got to continue to do a roads. So let's just take half of what we're spending.
30%.
Let's take a cut of that then. Let's just take,
We're spending 60% of the 1 cent sales tax toward roads now.
then let's just take 30%. Let's really make sure that the road we do, and instead of paving this one beside the office out here, that one, whatever.
That's a grant.
Okay, sorry.
Well, with the present funds, Commissioner Moore, we're sort of locked into those percentages, I think, because that's what the,
I think
No?
we can check it.
By resolution, we could change
oh,
it.
is that right? Okay, stand corrected.
Now you are locked, I understand also, you are locked into a degree because you've got debt service on that particular line.
Let's say, for example, that there was some good deal on some property for future use. We could change the allocation, right, David, to say, all right, this final year, we're going to change Parks and Rec component to 60% and buy this cash in hand and just pay it off because it's such a good deal. But anyway, that's something that can be done. But that doesn't have anything to do with property taxes.
If we shift, I don't mind shifting funds for a good cause. I don't mind at all. especially if that cost is something that's going to benefit the long-term good. It's too bad that we're losing our eyes. We're beginning to get ourselves out of the
Well,
hole.
It's starting to come back.
It's starting to tick up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not doom and gloom yet, but like David said, we need to at least be moving in the direction that we're not relying on that money, that the money is.
Yeah, I think it's we can't, that's something we can't ignore. We need to, because we need to fix it so that we're not back in this position again. And if it does go away, we've already taken steps, and that was the purpose of the fine and forfeiture fund, was to start that process. That was the first thing we had to do.
If we were in the boom
Next
days-
step is to try to start taking care of
The
it.
easy way to do this, if we were in the boom days, we could just say, we're gonna keep the millage rate at 8.25. Every year, that revenue, that 8.25 mils goes up and up and up, and we could simply say, we're gonna chop it that one step at a time until they're not using that. But we don't have that luxury, because the rates are either going down or they're staying flat. If they were going up, we could leave the millage rate the same and easily accomplish.
Well, you can once you get over the hurdle of the
Once you-
ice deal. This is a hurdle that's got. David, I don't even like to even say this, but what about if you were to privatize? Let's say that we don't give the sheriff the money he needs, and he says, well, you can have the jail, and we say, well, great, we'll privatize it. We still have to pay that bill. Somebody has to pay the private operator.
Yeah, you still have to pay that bill, as whether they can operate it more efficiently than you can. But also, I think it goes back to, the sheriff may want to say that, but at the end of the day, you guys are the boss. you guys are the boss, and you say, no, here's what you're going to do, and here's what the money you're going to do it with.
I haven't seen many models of privatization out there that really work in the sense that they provide the same level of service. They usually end up cutting back services, and the profit goes to the corporation.
It's a for-profit corporation.
Right. So,
The word is in there. But government is pretty inefficient too. There are certain things you can do in the corporate world. You can move a lot quicker. You can buy things used, for example, and there's different purchasing rules. So there is an offset.
well,
Now, you know what I'm saying that. 'Cause
Yeah.
I ran a privatized business for
right.
8 years, right, Brent?
Now, no part.
And I guess it depends on the privatization of what your business is.
I didn't promote that. I just mentioned it.
Yeah.
It's not anything that I'm thinking about or direction that I'm going.
All right. But, in some models it may work, in others it may not. In medicine, it's been a disaster, privatization. I mean, all private companies have done is increase the cost of medicine.
Seems like it has been working for our solid waste, though.
I'm saying, in some venues, it's possible to work. In other venues, it's impossible for it to
I
work.
understand. Well, I mean, that to me is the big.
We'll just have to cross that. I guess we just have to cross that bridge when we get there. There's not anything we don't know.
And hope we avoid that bridge.
Have they said you're not going to have all those prisoners?
No.
They're back up to what, 80 now, I think?
80%.
So they're from what, 65 to 80?
If we can stabilize there, we'll hop along. But, we
So your scenario is that we lost all of them.
oh, yeah, we lose down below 40.
Case scenario.
Right, and so what's our
Below
backup
40?
plan for that?
Yeah.
Yes, there is no
Down below
backup.
40?
Well, I think that's worth
We
discussing.
can find 40 people out there
Backup
that we
plan is
can
still
put in
answer
jail.
that. Right. And that's
We're
what
not
you
gonna get
need.
paid for them.
Melissa's got a whole bunch of friends we can put in jail.
Who's going to pay us, though?
I'm sorry, Dr. Kessler.
No, I was looking at Greg.
And even if the ICE inmates go back up and we hit 100, 120, you still need to realize that's still a landmine that one day you need to have a plan and need to, if it does start to pull up, then that will buy us the time to, as David mentioned, reverse the cycle and find a way to operate on operating revenues and use that revenue for capital. And so it'll buy you time. You still have to work on a plan to get out from underneath it.
We asked Charlie to come up with a plan within 3 months. But, all of a sudden they pulled plug tomorrow, say it's
Yeah.
gone, where's your plan, within 3 months, cut that $1.7 billion? And I don't,
Haven't seen it yet.
Well, and that's a budget decision that hopefully we don't have to cross that bridge, but if we do, we're gonna cross it and we're gonna deal with it somehow. This is a priorities workshop is what we're talking about here, so my thinking is definitely one of the priorities needs to be shifting the ICE funds out of general revenue and go to capital expenses, and, you know, there's no quickie, you can't just flip the switch and say, okay, that's done today, but I think we ought to put it on the list. We ought to make it a priority that we head in that way. We talked about facilities already, let's talk about the ICE revenue and start making our steps that way.
Our long-term goal, when we met a year ago, was as long as the ICE continues to make a profit, they build up the reserve in that special fund we set up so that they have 2 years worth of reserve, so that when the 1.7 goes away, they'll have 2 years to operate at the same level, and that'll give us a 2-year window to plan our way out of that. So hopefully, if it continues, that we'll continue to increase the reserves there and then work on a way of reversing the funding source.
So that sounds like run ICE basically like the building department. And just keep that money allocated, so when they run into a dry spot, you're okay until you
That's what
deplete.
the fine and forfeiture fund was set up for.
Yeah, that was our stopgap measure, but it didn't get at what you're saying. It didn't reverse it. It didn't say, let's quit depending on it and let that be the icing on the cake.
Right.
It did not do that, and how to go about doing that and not damaging other things that's a tough question.
I thought that was part of what you readjusted
That is.
Sheriff's Department.
That's right, and that's the reason we did that.
Are we in that mode, or are we out of?
We're in that mode. What we need, we've isolated the problem. We have the sheriff's department isolated now. They're no longer intermingled in with everything else. They're isolated. They're responsible for their own revenue now and their own expenses. And now we've got it parked. Now we've also went to them and said, okay, here is your savings plan that you have to do to come up with. As you get this ICE revenue, a certain percentage of that goes into your savings account, to where one day when it gets up to a certain level, as your expenses go up, you chew in, or your revenues go down from the ICE, you chew into that savings account until you figure out a way to get out of it.
So the ICE is on its own.
ICE is with the sheriff's department on its own.
but we cannot let the sheriff's department just fail either. We're not-
But you can't let the sheriff's department fail, but at the end of the day, the longer it runs in this thing to where we're isolated revenue, because the problem was the revenue was all in the general fund budget. So it just got, you know what I mean? It went out into nowhere. So what we did was parked it over here in the fine and forfeiture fund. Then we can isolate it and start saving so that we can reverse that in the future with the,
So you have their budget more or less separated from ICE. So they have a budget number that we're giving them separate from ICE today.
That's correct.
yes. Mhm.
So basically, as long as ICE doesn't go away, then they're on a set budget that they've got to operate under. Okay, now that's a good.
Yeah, they're
You know where-
frozen.
And
That's
you know
right.
where it is.
Yeah,
You got your information.
yeah,
you got all
they're
your-
frozen, yeah.
So, just, and they make a profit on anything above 40, more or less.
It goes, that's right, they make a profit, but that profit goes to their savings.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So it goes to offset their down units
right.
if they're a down unit.
I don't think, no, I don't.
agree.
They budgeted to have 100 prisoners. That's what they assumed.
Right.
But I think under 100, they're not putting anything in
Anything
savings.
under 100, they're losing money on what
Right.
they budgeted.
Today, we're losing money, under budget.
Under budget.
Under
We're
budget.
bringing in more
Not
money
losing
than
money,
it's
but
costing
under
to house
budget.
the
That's right.
prisoners, but we're bringing in less than we budgeted.
Correct. So at the end of the
We're
year.
not setting the money aside.
Right.
At the end of the year, what's going to probably happen is the sheriff's department will come and say, we missed our revenue projection by $400,000. We need y'all to make it up. And we're going to have to make it up. How we
Well-
make it up? Take it out of reserve.
Take it out of their ICE.
Well, I think that's also the time for you guys, I think that's a Fisher cut bait moment as well. That's where you guys say, well, wait just a minute.
you know, if it was a business and all of a sudden we were gonna be losing $400,000 next year, you gotta look internally at how you can get there before you come to us and ask
Which
us
is
that.
exactly what we did, Jerry. Remember when we did furloughs, laid people off? We were made aware that there's a crisis coming. Here it is, right in front of your face. You need to do something about it now before it becomes a major crisis. And we did. And I guess at some point, you know, we said we were going to wait, the last audit committee, we're going to wait a couple months to see where the revenue was at, if we needed to really panic or just minor panic.
Because the way it's set up is for them to come in and tap into their reserve account, they have to come to you guys.
They're getting,
And that's your management point.
That's the
That
rate.
becomes your management tool to say, nah, I tell you what we'll do. We'll give you 100,000 out of that, but y'all got to find out what you're going to do with the rest of it. How you
if they're
going to?
budgeting 100,
Right.
but they need 100, when actually they only need 40 to,
40 is a break even as far as the program paying for itself.
then basically that other 60 should be going into reserve.
But it's not.
It's
It
not.
should- It may should be, but it's not.
Okay.
It's
All right.
subsidizing the rest of the budget.
Yeah, the rest of their budget.
Right.
The other part of their the other side of their budget.
Here's their revenue side. It's 10.3 million. That's ad valorem tax. That's housing included. So they're subsidizing them.
I understand. Which in turn subsidizes the citizens. The citizens are paying less taxes because
Right.
there's ICE.
If we kept the same level of service.
That's
yes.
correct. Well,
Same level of
I'm
spending.
not gonna go to the citizens. I'm gonna give them less service. I'm not gonna raise their taxes.
I agree. Citizens are telling me the same thing.
I really.
They're telling me, I don't care if my road's paved, I don't care if there's a pothole.
It's hard, sometimes it's a little hard to explain about the different pots of money that, well, why'd you build a horse arena? We don't need that. Well, that was a grant that paid for that. It has nothing to do with your property taxes. Or why the fire department? We don't need, well, MSBU pays for that. I mean, it is a tax, but it's not your property tax that pays
Well,
for it.
they understand that.
And road paving, that's all.
Well, but a lot of the maintenance and upkeep now becomes a property tax issue.
Correct.
That we wouldn't need to use that. We wouldn't need to send someone out to mow it or fix a plumbing leak or whatever. So that's where I think that we have to be careful. Anything that's an expansion, I still see a storm coming. I don't think we're clear, but I think we have to be careful that let's continue to batten down the hatches and let's not expand anything.
I don't want to expand anything, but I don't want to let the roof leak because we can't shift money to fix the roof. Or I don't want to see us lose an opportunity to buy a boat ramp when we can shift money. If we can shift money and cover some long-term opportunity that we will not have if we don't do it today. And any kind of access, our county depends on recreation for a huge amount of our dollars, and fishing is a huge amount of that part. I don't know how many people come to the coast to just look around the coast. They come to the coast to fish, and they do go to Wakulla Springs, and they go out looking for birds and butterflies. But the big dollars are spent when the guy put 100 gallons of his gas the other day at Crumbs in his tank. $400. You're going to catch 2 fish.
If that.
Yeah, if he's lucky, he'll catch 2.
Yeah.
He had 400 gallons. It helped 200 gallons, but he could only afford 100.
My boat holds 200
And how much
gallons.
money is it?
I'm with you.
Mine holds.
It's been a long time since I filled it up.
His boat holds 200.
I
Mine
can't
holds.
afford a boat.
Mine
I
holds
can't even-
16 gallons.
Yeah,
I complain of 16 gallons.
200 gallons.
So good.
You know, talking about that is one of the things we've been trying to do is shift around and put more user fees into existence, and just like we isolated the boating trust fund, what we're hoping to do is out of that is no longer be able to have to have it, even though it's a small fund, is we can carve out certain segments, the boat ramps and the channel markers and most of the navigational things that we spend general fund dollars on, carve those out to where they're user fee based. All right, and we got to fix parks and recreation, or recreation, and we're fixing parks now, and now we're going to be able to fix recreation. So we got that's the reason I put this long-term plan in, is to try to get there, because realizing we can't eat the elephant all in one bite, we can eat him a little bit at a time, and you're right, and we're not intended to expand, but also we're trying to keep up with a level of service, and what I'm committed to come back to you guys on is if I see where it makes sense to replace something versus repair something, that's what I'm going to do. That's my fiduciary responsibility, is to say it doesn't make sense to repair this. It makes sense to replace it, because there's really, at the end of the day, that's what we got to be careful of, is where is that point to where you replace something versus repair. You know what I mean? It becomes we could spend $100,000 on it and repair it, but we could spend $200,000 and get a brand new one. It lasts us 10 more years. So but anyway, that's
the question on all those is, my first question is it budgeted? Now that's the big thing to me, is have a budget that makes sense, stick to it, not come up and say, we didn't know about this ambulance replacement, we need $100,000 we forgot to mention. If it's budgeted and we're following the budget, and I think we're spending the taxpayers' dollars wisely, I don't.
Well, it's like I've told my staff. I've told them, I want you to spend every capital replacement, like a vehicle, whatever. We got to spend that. We're not doing our fiduciary responsibility if we don't replace this stuff. You know what I mean? If it needs to be replaced, replace it, because you're hurting yourself in the future. You've got to spend what you said you had to spend. You need to get that spent and spend it. I know we realize we spend it wisely, and where we can gang up, we do. But still, at the end of the day, we're not doing any good by saying, "Woo, we saved on our capital budget." Well, that's wrong. That was like me in private business. If I'd have private side of there said, "Woo, I saved an acquisition dollar," they'd have fired me. That's the way it's meant. That's the lifeline of what we're trying to do here. Now, saying all that, one other thing I'd like to bring up to you guys that needs to be a priority that we really need to talk about is currently in the county we've got 4 water systems.
4 what?
Water systems. Okay. We've got 1 sewer system. We're stuck with the wrong end of the pipe. Ultimately, what we need to do, and we've got water issues coming with saltwater intrusion. Ultimately, we need to be working towards a water and sewer authority, pulling all these water systems together, creating an authority to be able to run it, and then we can provide level service throughout the county. We can provide level cost throughout the county, as well as we can control what happens, because at some point in time, as this thing goes, we can't stay fractionalized like we are. It needs to be pulled into one.
How do you do that?
At some point in time, it's going to take political will. It's going to take pulling it together. But the ultimate vision, to be able to control our resource here in this county, to control our resource that we have. I've seen it happen all across the United States, and it works well. But we need something. We need to start working towards an authority.
Will it save us money?
Well, yeah.
What's an authority?
An authority basically is a lot of counties do it like one that comes in says Cherokee County, which you're familiar with. They have a very strong water and sewer authority. Everything water, it takes the water and sewer authority, takes the water and sewer decisions, all profit extensions there, it takes it out of the political realm. They become their own board, they set up as their own board, and they're in charge of the water and sewer construction, the water and sewer authorizations, the permit, everything within that county happens, it comes through that water and sewer authority, and they control the water and sewer for that
They set
particular
rates?
They set their own rates, they do everything.
So for example, if we have one, I think there's 5 water systems.
Right.
If we said, all right, City of St. Mark's, your water rate is going to be this, do we determine how much goes to them to operate and maintain?
No, a water authority, you would pull all the water authorities into one, and they would be owned by the water authority.
How do you do that?
You got to buy them.
You have to, you either buy them and or you take them over. However, there's a lot of different ways to go about doing it. You buy them and say, okay, city, stop shopping here, and it's been done. It's fairly easy to do. City, stop shopping. Here's what you've made in the past. we're gonna give you X amount of percent of that every year, year over year. St. Mark's, here's this. And you dole it out of that authority. But what it does, it takes our sewer plant, pulls it out of the county coffers. It takes the water systems to where the water can pay for the sewer, because what we're doing right now don't make any sense. We got the wrong end of the stick.
I understand that.
And therefore, therefore, what's happening is this. You've got a water system that's sitting here making money and charging folks at this level. Now, we got a sewer system. Most cities says, okay, my water system's making this and my sewer system's making this. But I'm going to make it up. My water system will make that. What we're having to do is we're having to say, hey, we got to put our sewer system, because it's got to make it. Now all of a sudden it's up here, and this water system is going to somebody else, the profit of that. So guess what? Our people, our customers are paying more. So we're not doing our people, our county citizens, a service by not consolidating and getting these all together.
Profit's going to them because they.
That's right. But the problem is normally you allow your water system to subsidize your sewer system. That's not happening.
We don't have to have sewer though. I think we agree with that. We do if we want to grow. I mean, but in the strictest sense, we don't have to have.
I think you're committed now. It ain't like you just shut it down.
No, I agree.
So you got that horse has already left the barn.
You're going to have to have sewer going. You're going to have to have sewer going forward. Almost. Well,
if we
you
didn't
don't
have
have
sewer,
to
we wouldn't have a TCC environmental institute. We can have sewer.
Yeah.
Basically, so that's.
Well, but because that's already done. So you got to have a sewer system, and you need to sewer more of the county. You need to get the sewer out of the basin. But the point is somewhere down the line we need to look at it, because, like I say, you need to use the water revenues to subsidize your sewer, because the sewer is going to keep getting more and more and more expensive. And it is a lost leader.
Bill out there. When I say I don't mean go give up the sewer. I meant years ago when there was no sewer in Crawfordville, the board decided to extend it for growth. They didn't have to do that.
No, they don't have to do it. That's right.
That was my point.
Right.
They didn't have to do it back then. Of course, we got it now. We're stuck with it. That was my point.
David, how do you
Start talking to cities.
Can we talk to Tallahassee first? Because we floated the idea one time that they'd taken their, because they have a pretty large water system in Wakulla County. They don't have any tanks here, but
Just do a bulk purchase, yeah.
that may be something they'd be willing.
Do you get
They were
grant-
going to give it to us at one time.
you get grants? Do you get grants for all that stuff?
Oh, yeah. There's grants for, that are given away in the state right now for taking over systems. And that's something that's going on right now. We're not the only county talking about it.
Can you get the grants that pays for all of that? So
Well,
basically,
I have to see.
it's more political than it is money.
Yeah, I think it takes political will.
Ralph's got
But
will.
it takes
I don't know
vision.
that I have that will, to be honest with you.
It takes-
'Cause now you're talking about taking a profitable business, Talcon that sells their water. You're talking about basically a hostile takeover, saying we're
Talcon
going to
will sell. They
would have to.
they have to be open, but they've already said yeah.
Same
Come
thing
on.
with Sop Choppy. This is their bread and butter. Now if everybody was willing, I mean, I certainly could, wouldn't be the stumbling block on that. But I just don't see everyone being willing. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but City of Sop Choppy has more reserves in the bank than we do, and it's because of that water
Don't be
system.
surprised at what people are willing to let go.
Yeah.
You gotta ask the question. You can't. until
All
you
things
float
should
it
be
out.
on the table. I'm for it. I'd just be surprised if they go willingly.
If you take, and here's where political will comes in, if you've got something that benefits 9 people and doesn't benefit 1 person, we're here for the good of the 9.
So is socialism, but that's the definition of socialism. What about free market? Yeah.
All depends on where you are.
I think we could at least start, that's a lot of spaghetti to eat at one time, I guess you'd say.
It's a lot, but it's something y'all need to be thinking about, because, like I say,
Saying I just read that.
because one of the things that Talcon has approached us.
We could talk to.
And it's nothing, everybody does it every day, so it's nothing I'm saying is something that's new and different. And because until you ask the question,
Panacea
they all of a sudden say, yeah, y'all take this thing.
has a water and sewer authority.
We were going to give it away from Eversink water. Remember that years ago, Howard? Because it's just so small, it wouldn't make any money. And I think number one, we talked to Tallahassee maybe about their system, because that's a city, and another one, just back in general discussion, if we were able to somehow get rid of our raw sewer bulk rate, that would make a huge difference too on whether you're profitable or not profitable too.
And I think that as the county, we do have certain leverages, if we choose to use them, that could be compelling for a municipality to work with us.
So who's going to lead that charge and start the conversation?
And remember too,
Start making those.
I've already started.
Contact.
I've already started the conversation with, I've already talked to Talquin, and I just haven't had time to follow up on it. In fact, they've given me some engineering information. And if anybody was going to balk against it, it's them.
Can you take them one at a time?
And understand this, we got to start thinking about our resource here. Our water resource is when talking to DEP a couple of weeks ago, the aquifer is flattened for the first time ever. So, meaning it's about the same elevation in Georgia as it is here at Spring Creek. So that's the reason we're getting a lot of infiltration among other things, but we're getting it, and we got to think about what are we going to do in the future for water. Not saying we got to throw the flag right now, but dadgummit, it's something we got to think about for our kids and our grandkids, and maybe even sooner than that. And how can you do it if you've got all these fragmented folks out here all over the place? We're going to have to have a solution, and they're going to look to us for a solution. I'm not saying that's the sole reason we're doing it, but that's one of the things. And then also an authority will be able to manage our resource better than 5 different folks. You're not going to have that. So there are a lot of different reasons why, and if this is a classic, we are a classic case for we need to be set up as an authority so we can control our resource. What happens?
Is this something that could be, since it's a pretty major decision, that could be put on a referendum, or is this something the board needs to decide?
That would probably something to be put on a referendum after a while.
A lot more palatable there.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. But it's something that, like I say, there's a lot of do's and don'ts and a lot of stuff. But at the end of the day, we're reaching a point now that's.
I believe Savannah is on the same aquifer we're on, and I believe their aquifer is down 37 feet.
Mm-hmm. It's a serious problem.
It's the same aquifer that we pull from.
I mean, do we go to Lake Talcott and start to have a freshwater withdrawal, surface water withdrawal? All those questions are out there. What's the?
And they have a big saltwater intrusion in Savannah.
Yeah. So that's something that that's what I'm saying. It's a tough thing, and we got to think about it. It's nothing we got to react today on.
So let me make sure I understand. If we have an authority, it takes it out of this board, and they're their own governing authority. But when they set their rates, are they setting their rates to operate the system, or are you saying that's going to generate a revenue source for this board?
The authority, they will set the rates to run their authority and do any planned upgrades or expansions.
So all that does for us, it takes out any overhead.
What it does do is
gets rid of sewer and gets rid of river sink.
Gets rid of sewer, gets rid of, and it consolidates all the systems in. But also, there's a couple ways to set up an authority. One is to where one of the ways to where each one of you have a representative on the authority. Mm-hmm. The other way is the authority is an elected, just like you guys. It's an elected board. That's right. So there's probably a couple other different ways to set them up, but that's the 2 major ways I've seen them set up, and they work. They work great, and they can work good. And I've seen one in Jackson County, Georgia, that went a little awry, but now they love it. So, but it's good because in here it's just we can consolidate it and get everybody into one authority. But that's something, like I say, it's nothing we got to do today, but it's something we need to be thinking long term.
Well, is the authority? Are there people in the authority that get paid?
Yes, sir. They would have employees, just basically they would take like ESG's portion of the contract for the wastewater treatment. All their wastewater treatment plant operators would go there.
Basically like a political subdivision. The city of Tallahassee has a sewer system,
Right.
Water system subdivision.
That's right. You would take out.
This would make a new entity basically as a vehicle to get rid of our sewer system and have it subsidized by water.
They wouldn't have that
And
anymore. We
it
would
could
take
be
over
run
their
by a
system.
board that's created
He gets it out of ours.
between the county and the two cities, and you would have,
And
you'd be able to appoint people to serve on that board and make the decisions. So you would be able to set it up in a way that you could maintain some control.
I can see the efficiency of that.
What is the efficiency of that compared to the county taking over everything and running it itself?
Well,
Are there any special legislative powers at the water board?
and I think Heather can answer that, but I think they have about the same authorities that we currently have that are available to us. There's really, if we did it well, Dr. Kessler, there's, at the end of the day, other than paying, and I'm not sure how that would work because I haven't been in government quite long enough, is can we actually give a pay back to the city of Sopchoppy or pause or so? But yeah, I mean that is the other alternative, is to pull it all into the county, either set it as an authority or pull it all under the county.
The authority, I guess, would separate us, the board, from it, and it would be as political.
Well, and also they also become then their own operating unit, to where they have to make a profit in order, or not a profit, but they have to pay their expenses. Of course, we could do the same thing, but
We would still have to do the billing, we'd still have to hire operators, we'd still have to...
I don't know that we do that. If they have an authority, they do that.
oh yeah, they do all that. The authority does all that. Yeah, we don't have that. We take our authority,
Yeah.
we wash our hands of it.
But then we lose the control of the rates.
I thought that the authority would buy the water systems.
Yeah,
To me, if the authority bought the water systems, they wouldn't then bill for the water usage?
yeah, they bill for the water and sewer. Yeah.
You know what I just said?
No, you
You said we would have to build. They are their own entity.
But I mean, if we bought the water
yeah.
system...
Oh yes, yes, yes,
We would
yes.
have to, if we did the same thing the authority would do,
That's right.
we would still have all the overhead costs with it.
We
I guess
don't
is
want
what
to
I'm
do
saying.
that.
I think and also at the end of the day, like I say, we could actually provide, authority would more than likely, and I'd have to run all the numbers, but the authority would be able to actually provide a cheaper service to our customer base.
And their purpose is
Because-
not to make money, but to pay for...
That's right, that's right, and pay for, that's right, it's not to make money, but I think at the end of the day, I've seen it, you normally, they'll actually reduce the cost, the overall monthly cost to our citizens. They will reduce that because all of a sudden they pull all these fractionals in and they operate the system as one, and instead of distributing cost over 900 customers, they're distributing cost over 12,000 customers, and that's a big difference, because in water and sewer business, you know, your what it costs you to provide service to 5,000 people, you can provide for that same cost. You can provide it to 10,000.
Well, you probably have 5 people doing billing, one for
Yeah.
each system, and you might need just one person doing it.
That's right. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
If you think about it, you could really, and in fact, if I'm not mistaken, didn't you just set up an authority or was involved in an authority where it actually reduced the rates? Well, who was I talking to about that? She just did one.
And you did the same thing with the workers, with the labor.
Mhm.
You don't have to have 5 different laborers.
Brent could run the water, sewer, and everything.
Just thinking out loud, David, but if, it wouldn't be as efficient, but wouldn't a franchise fee, if you had a water franchise fee that was just there to subsidize sewer, wouldn't that accomplish the same thing? I don't know if you can legally do that or not.
Impose a franchise
Just
fee.
say you charge an extra $1 to everybody's water bill to pay for sewer. Could you do that?
Well, I mean,
On the city of Sopchoppy
the
system.
city of Sopchoppy, you could
Talcott, Tallahassee, every water system in the county have a franchise fee to subsidize wastewater treatment.
franchise fees are a part of a negotiated franchise agreement, so you sit down with them.
Well, we have them.
But here's the problem, though, is just what you said, though, is you're adding on costs.
I understand.
What I'm saying is we can consolidate them, we can push down
I
costs.
understand. Just talking out loud
That's
about
right.
all options.
That's right.
But
So,
there is something that could be done. We do have water
Right.
service agreements with everybody except the city of Tallahassee, but we don't have any way to strong arm anybody to do anything, because they would just give it to them, basically, which is fine. I'm just saying that is an option. Theoretically, you could charge some sort of small franchise fee to subsidize sewer.
We haven't mentioned anything about the Restore Act, making the assumption and we were to get 15 million from restoring, that could go a long way to solving some of our problems.
That's what you guys so choose to do, yes, sir.
Capital expenditure, not problems, but wants, I guess you'd say. Can't be used for ongoing
Operations.
It's not going to save us from the ICE prisoners.
No, it won't save us from ice cream.
No, but,
You could consolidate your water systems and all that stuff,
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal.
if that's the way you guys wanted to go.
So I guess the first step is to find out if each of the systems are even remotely interested in opting in.
Right.
And then you mentioned referendum, if they're willing to opt in and we put it before the people, then certainly we need to consider it and look at the overall cost. But if you're going to have 5 systems that's all fighting us, and then, the public would probably catch on that fight as well, and people say, well, I'm in River Sink, now I'm going to be paying for water and sewer and Sopchoppy or where else. That could be a big battle, but we had that conversation.
Well, I think also what we need to do is, one of the things I put off doing is spending some money to a little bit to do some research on fees, because more than likely the compelling thing is what you were talking about earlier about people paying no less taxes, is we need to show with a consolidated system what your fees will be, what your water sewer. At that point in time, if all of a sudden I can take my water and sewer bill and knock it down by $10 a month, I'm like, I don't care what I'm doing. Yeah, that sounds like a pretty darn good deal to me.
Another point about it, if I could, is that around Walmart, I think the city of Sopchoppy's lines stop and Talcott starts. They can't tie into each other. They may have a water tank within a mile of each other, which the water tanks are the heart of the water system, providing pressure. If they were consolidated, you could join them together.
Well, if you did that, you took City of Tallahassee's line, you could tie it over to our to connect them.
There's off the cap it.
Well, no. What I'm saying is no. Actually, you have them as a backup to our system.
Well, if you had 4, 5, or 6 elevated storage tanks, you may not need a backup. You may just cut their line off the county line and tie it.
Right.
Use our supply.
Vice versa. So, the City of Durham and the City of Raleigh, they have big of those systems are. They have interconnection, and sometimes it flows this way, sometimes it flows that way.
They meter it.
They meter it. That's right. As they have issues, yeah.
Like power grid.
Yeah.
Power grid.
Just like
Yeah. And this could be a mechanism of connecting folks to sewer who have not connected or been able to connect. If that system is together, it might create a larger customer base.
It will.
I'm
It
certainly
will.
willing to entertain it. I just don't want to lead the charge for something.
No.
Fight.
somebody's throat.
Yeah.
No, and that's something, that's part of what I'll do, is continue to work on it, but I'll be bringing stuff to you guys in the future to spend just a little bit, not talking about, probably $5,000-$10,000 on some studies to try to get some baseline information on it, because I think it's something that I wouldn't be bringing it to you if I didn't think it was something that was valid, that we really need to think about, because we are facing some serious issues in the future.
Just speaking from experience, which I ain't got much, one of the first issues that came up was the garbage. And, I was against it. For that, basically, Gary and I both voted against it. Me because, the government telling me what to do, blah, blah, blah. It's not time to argue whether I was right or wrong. But I eventually went along with it, and I think it's worked out all right. It's solved. A lot of people don't like it. I'd say 90%, 89% think it's okay. I'm not sitting here defending it, but I'm saying it was a major, major issue that did resolve a bleeding revenue problem.
A whole bunch of people saved $100 a year. My bill was $300. I voted against it also, but my bill was $300, and now my bill is $200.
So
A lot of folks now.
even if it is a major issue, I guess you know what I'm saying, there is a way through it. It's painful. It's painful walking through the door, but on the other side,
If you show it saving money, then it's like a no-brainer.
That didn't save everyone money. There's plenty of people.
No, I'm not talking about the garbage. I'm talking about the water.
Oh, yeah.
No, it didn't.
we can talk to the blue in the face.
Randy said
Hey, we got it. We got it.
It's already done now.
Randy said he took his to the garbage, didn't you? You took
I
yours.
took mine to the dump.
Yeah, so it
Probably Saturday. I took more from the dump than I took to the dump. My kids got all kind of toys from that. Great place.
So far, I'm the facilitator on this group. Facility management, ICE revenue takeover, out of the general fund, keep taxes at present levels or lower, future water supply.
Yep. Water supply to subsidize sewer, I think.
Well, it's a lot of things, a lot of positives.
Is that the same as in other places I pay, my sewer bill is twice my water bill? That's pretty much, they're making sure that their sewer is paid for. They take my water usage, the cost
Yes,
of my
that's a
water,
standard, is the multiple, yeah.
and then they multiply to cover.
That's standard, that's industry standard.
Yeah.
Yeah. The idea there is you use 2,000 gallons of water. That means you put 2,000 gallons of water into the system, so you pay for it.
Going a little further without dipping too deep into it, I'd personally like to see us tie into Tallahassee's wastewater system and have us get out of the treatment business altogether. That's a long-term thing, but that could possibly be a cost savings thing. We became a bulk customer of them. Just like City of St. Mark's, their water supply comes straight from Tallahassee. There's a big meter. They pay a certain amount. And they handle all the distribution and billing and all that other kind of jazz. Especially with their upgraded treatment standards they have, it's better than drinking water standards, and it actually replenishes the springs shed.
It will.
That's something I'm working on now.
Yes, you are.
You know what I mean? I can't speak for everybody, but I'm trying to at least feel things out.
We're all sitting here together so we can discuss that. Basically speaking, you're aware of the other possibilities.
Sandy MacArthur?
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't have any problem with that? If he costs us,
Doesn't, well,
if he costs us, if he gives us the product we need and costs us less than Tallahassee.
well, here's the problem. Is number one is it's still in the Springs area. So that's, you can argue that's, they're how important or how not important it is. But they don't treat for nitrogen and phosphorus treatment. I called Brent and asked him to see their MORs. They're not going to test for it. So, they may be treating to an even higher level of treatment standard as we are. And I think his 1 million gallon plant, I think.
But basically, what I'm saying is you present your program to him and see if he can save us money doing the same program you wish.
Anything is worth looking at. But if the point is to get the nitrogen out of the springs, that may not be the whole point, but yes, I understand what you're saying. We don't know what Tallahassee is going to charge yet, though, so we can't say.
But don't go by that option to Tallahassee until you've looked at option.
Well, of course, I can't speak for anybody, but
Yeah, but I don't want us to get too far into that with Tallahassee unless we can check and see if he can do the same treatment and it costs us less.
I agree.
You're talking about advanced wastewater treatment. Is that what we're talking about?
That's not what they have right now.
Tallahassee.
Yes.
Tallahassee has or going to have. But anything that we have in the county, we do not have that.
Correct.
Right.
But it may be worth MacArthur to say, fine, I'll spend the
That's what
$400,000 to upgrade it to the same treatment level they're doing, and I'll charge you half what they're going to charge you
That's
to
what
treat
I'm
your
saying.
waste, then yes, it's definitely worth looking at.
Okay.
Thing on the table.
I don't want us to.
So he could serve the entire county, is that what we're saying, with the system he has now?
No,
What we were looking at-
have to upgrade.
What we were looking at doing is possibly running this is my thoughts personal. If you ran a main sewer line up Shaveville Highway, you could reverse all the flows in the county to come to Crawfordville instead of going to Otter Creek, and then you could pump a main line up Shaveville Highway up to Woodville Highway, turn it north. You could tie into Carpet's Place or just tie right into the city Tallahassee sports main.
And since we're talking, can I have Mr. McCarthy talk to you?
I think Ted's already called me. Maybe Sandy, I can't remember. I know Ted's called me.
Whether that's what I'm talking.
Well, I just need to do a little bit more checking.
Okay.
But yes, somebody has talked to me about that. And that's why I called Brent and asked him what their treatment standard was for nitrogen, their plant, but they don't have one. But that doesn't mean you can make a couple $100,000 in upgrades.
That's what I'm
You got
saying.
plenty of spray field, it's a $1 million plan, I think.
He's got plenty of money.
Got plenty of money.
I don't know about that.
The issue with the firehouse and the decision to repair the firehouse, and with the original plan, there was a $1 million loan that was tied to that original thing coming through. Where are we with repairs? What does it look like, the repairs on all of our stations, cost-wise?
Repairs on, here's the plan that we're currently working with and trying to figure out a good game plan. As we talked with as you two commissioners know, the Crawfordville Volunteer Fire Department, which is our most active and fire department that we have as far as volunteer fire department is concerned, they'd like to have their own identity. So what we're working on now is to see what it's going to take to revamp Station 8, not the entire facility, but kind of there's a big building for storage for equipment on this side, and a big for equipment on this side, and in the middle there's living quarters and miscellaneous stuff. We just cut that in half, and part of that becomes the Crawfordville Station 8. So we're looking at that, and then coming back to you guys with a scaled down version of a fire/EMS facility, and therefore that would allow us to shut down two other facilities and get rid of those facilities and have a new up-to-date facility, as well as move ESG to the ground floor at Trice Lane, so increase their storage capability. So we're going to be bringing that back to you guys.
The volunteers want to stay in the Station 8 where the full-time firefighters were.
Right.
Now, the one problem with that building was that the size of the building, the fire truck had to be special ordered to be the certain length that would fit in that. Is that an issue with the
No, the volunteers are good.
Volunteers.
They've got their trucks in there now. They're happy as they can be. They want to have their own identity, which I understand that. There's two different
They don't
worlds.
want to be bumped up with the full-time
That's right.
firefighters.
They have
They
two
want a
different
meeting
functions.
facility of their own.
That's right. They want to have their own. At the end of the day, we can spend some money there, get that facility upgraded, and then naturally that'll allow us also to tone down our fire and EMS facility.
Thinking about what you want to do to it, because I've looked at that building
Right.
several times.
And so anyway, that's what we're working on, and what that cost of that new facility will, that we're hoping to bring it in, cheaper than what, when we're looking at ways to fund it. The problem that you get is your fire and your fire fund, is where do we get the money to do it? And if you go in there and you pull all your money out of reserves, then you don't buy any equipment for the next 5 years, or do you borrow that money against, you actually got the money to pay it, but you're borrowing it for cash flow purposes, which is, that's what we proposed to you guys in the past.
Station 8 was the roof.
Right.
If there's no living facilities there, that takes all that out of it.
Yeah, there won't be any living
No
facilities there.
AC, no.
Well, there'll be AC.
Well, no, I mean, that was one of the things the AC called fire, the living quarters.
Right, no.
We don't need to worry about fixing the living quarters back up.
Yeah, this will be where they have their meeting room.
Meeting room, I think, is okay.
It's okay. It needs a little upgrade, but it's okay. We're not talking about spending a ton of money.
And then you don't need to upgrade the Station 8 itself. Re-roofing, I think, certainly needs to be done.
Right.
The roof's kind of cut up, but it probably work. They reversed the gable pitches on the beam is in the middle. But anyway, it would probably work fine. Now, are we at this point still talking about borrowing money to build the fire station? We need to go ahead and get that out on the table.
It may be.
I'm not for that.
I mean, it won't hurt us. We're in a good position to borrow money. We're not heavy into debt service. We're not going to add to our. I mean, we got the money to pay it. It's just a cash flow issue. And if you won't say you don't want to do it, that's fine. We're just not going to buy anything for the next 5 or 6 years. We've got fire equipment going down. That don't mean, it's a cash flow, we're not borrowing to get in debt. It's nothing like the federal government. It's not that it's nothing like that. It's a
When are you
pure
gonna know-
cash flow.
When are you gonna know when and if? Are you still?
We'll know this month.
There yet?
Yeah.
I saw a nice fire station, I wanna say, went to Panama City on 231 that some county had just built in there.
I saw that the other day.
I was taking my daughter there, it wasn't for me. I had to go to the beach, but anyway, I couldn't help but notice.
I went there for the restore meeting.
Okay, all right, it was there on county business.
Yeah.
So we'll need to make a decision, and if we don't all agree on it, that's fine, but this board will make a decision one way or the other, whether if we need to borrow money, or we're gonna borrow money or not, to the fire station.
Right. And where do we stand with the paid firefighters versus, not versus, it's a bad choice of words, and the volunteer firefighters? Like, how much of paid firefighters can we afford, and are we looking at any different use patterns for the present paid firefighters?
Before we get into that, do you mind if I make a comment, because you're talking about repair and maintenance? Why don't we have a work crew checked out from the jailhouse every day? And I guarantee you 75% of those guys have roofed homes in their life. Why don't we put them to work instead of going out for an RFP?
I would agree with you 100,000%.
Can we do it? We've got
Who am I going to have to manage them?
We've got
Nobody.
a facilities director now, right?
He's not yet.
Let's put him to work. He knows how to swing.
But also we're gonna be doing some interesting things like that. We're gonna start with Station 6 or whatever it is in Panacea. You got to be careful with what you put those guys on, because you have other things. But yes, we're going to be using them as well as WCI and the sheriff's department in different methods.
I think we need to have a team every day.
But understand this. I understand.
You have to be,
We got to have. That means Rod. That's all he's going to do.
Well, and Rob
Right.
may not be the
And
guy for that. Maybe.
Well, no. I got to have a contractor. I got to have guys going to build. So I mean, it's not that. It's great to say, but it's not easy to implement.
Well, we did that with the recycling, I think. Harold Gavin washed the prisoners.
Right.
Every day. That's basically what he did.
Because here's the
If we
problem.
do an RFP and we hire ABC Construction, there's profit built in. People are taking money home that's putting in the bank, and they're paying labor. If we have free labor, if we can't build it cheaper than hiring a company that has built-in profit, then there's something wrong with what we're doing.
Oh, we can.
I think it's definitely a way to save money, even if we've got to hire somebody to run that crew. As long as we're saving money in the long run, that's one of those areas where you spend money to make money, I think.
Yeah, but it's also very limited, and also my cautious side of that is, yeah, you're exactly right. All of a sudden we get these guys to come out there and do it. End of the day, we have a problem with that roof. Guess who's stuck with that?
We go fix it.
We're just like Women's Club. Here's what happened. Yeah, we went down there and fixed the Women's Club down in Panacea. Guess what? We got a big problem now. We got to replace the entire roof. So now we were going to save.
So you
Oh
saying
man, we saved $5,000, but we figured the cost was $20.
So we didn't do it properly up
That's
front,
right.
is that what you're saying?
Well, no, it was done probably. No, the two ways. It was done improperly to start off with. Then we come back and did it really bad the second time, and now we got to have to take the whole thing off.
Well, I mean,
But I understand what you're saying, and yes, we are going to be using those guys much more now that we have Rod, but we're going to limit what they do as far as where it makes sense.
Maybe it's a little different than doing cleanup around a construction job.
That's right.
Mowing grass or something like that. Like I said,
I mean, you've
They were at
got a lot of
landfill.
skilled labor in that jailhouse.
but you also don't need a prisoner falling off a roof.
Let me
And
bring
then
you
if
up
they
to
pay for that
date.
roof,
Let me bring you up to date on.
What's the difference if we have a contractor and the prisoner falls off the roof?
Contractor has insurance.
Yeah. They've got their own insurance. But you're right, though, Commissioner Thomas. That is something that's Rod's thing, is to do that. Like, I mean, for instance, we've got decks. You think about it. We got decks and docks and stuff like that. We haven't pressure washed them or sealed them, ever. That's something, get a crew out there, those inmates, 2 pressure washers, 1 pressure wash and the other sealing. We can do all the deck, you know what I mean? We can, that's what I've told him. I want to start and get, because those are, to me, those are more costly items that we're not taking care of. We've got like the deck or the dock at Mash's Sands. It's a great facility, beautiful. We don't take care of it. We have never stained it. We've never put seal on it. It needs to be pressure washed on a regular basis. Put seal, then we can, all of a sudden we can preserve our asset by another 10 to 20 years.
We used to have a prisoner every day at Trias Lane. I don't know who was guarding the guy. He was just Larry.
I'll ask the question again. I'll ask you this today. If a general contractor, if we contract to build, to do the roof, with a general contractor, we put in, you know, and he pulls the permits, and he hires the people who go up on the roof, and they all fall off together, where is the county responsible for all of them?
You can't tell him. I got a building contractor's license. I'm not a roofing contractor. I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. You say you got to use these prisoners as your labor force? No.
Well, no,
No, it needs to be a county employee that's leading the workout.
all right, let's
Well, but if it's a licensed contractor, I don't know what the relationship is, but as a private contractor, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Now, if there's no contractor involved in doing things like pressure washing, I wouldn't do risky things like a roof, but if it's replacing hardy board siding, maybe, yes.
let me ask you a question.
Mechanicing?
I have found a source with relationships to provide me with all the material to redo the roof on the fire station at Panacea Freight. So I can drop it off in 2 days. What I needed was a general
You
contractor.
need labor.
I had
Roofing contractor.
I needed a general contractor to pull the permits.
Or, well, a contractor.
Sir?
A contractor, yes.
Contractor, all right? I said, I have a general contractor. We're not paying him anything, but he will pull the permits. I come to you and I say,
That's right, but that was after I thought, I was like, well, I want the county to be sitting on the exposure for that.
well, is not
And-
the general contractor the fellow who's sitting on that exposure?
Yeah, and whether he would allow all the volunteers to hop up there on that roof?
He will.
Well, his insurance.
You gotta talk to me. You gotta talk to me. The thing, that's,
The problem is we already have our share of lawsuits.
Okay.
And I'm sick of them, it's just like you guys are, and I've got to try to mediate as,
I understand that. I'm just asking the question.
yeah, I understand, and I understand, and what you're trying to do is exactly right, but also on the other side of that is I don't want these things to go awry. If we can get those materials, we can afford,
We got the material.
we can afford to pay the labor. That's not a problem,
Speaking, I wanna go forward.
and be safe.
I want to go forward, and I will try to get the materials for the other routes on the volunteer station.
Good. How about the Station 8 in Carterville?
Don't push your luck.
Do we own all those stations?
No,
Out of Botany Bay.
not at Courtney Bay,
But on the volunteer.
one other.
On the
Well,
volunteer.
stop shopping.
I'll try to get the
One, I don't think, yeah.
Not sure.
material for it.
Panacea?
Panacea, we own we own Panacea.
Think so.
No.
Obey you don't know.
Obey, we do not. Panacea is strange. We don't,
Penefiel's not strange, they're good to
no,
me.
that, I know. We own the facility, we just don't own the land that the facility's sitting on.
Okay. You own the building.
You own the building, but you don't own the land that the, but it's a perpetual use as long as it stays as a volunteer, the covenant, as long as it stays as a fire station, it stays within the county's realm.
Nothing's happening to the land.
I'm just, he asked a question, I'll tell him the answer.
So getting back from an administrative perspective, with the cost of the paid firefighters into the future, what does it look like, and is there any thought of doing a different schedule with the paid firefighters
As far as,
as the shifts worked?
we've already adjusted this year, we've actually, that's the reason we did our cross-training, is to try to get at, in the future, of eliminating having to hire on any new firefighters by cross-training our EMS guys, and that is working very, very, very well. In the future, unless, I mean, as our, naturally, if the economy grows and we get more people in the county, that's something we have to look at. We're also aggressively going after more and more volunteers, but as you understand, as you know, it's not easy to bring a volunteer on board. So they're doing everything we can. It's just not a, you know, it's as if you're up here in my office quite a bit, you hear that fire truck go by almost every single day, 2 or 3 times.
Harold was talking about, but at one time there was talk about having the full-time firefighters only during the day and at 2 different locations rather than 24 hours a day at one
Exactly.
location. Is that
Right.
correct?
Yeah, because the volunteers, from what I'm hearing and seeing, are home at night and can respond to the evening calls.
Well, some of them can, but we're also tracking who responds to calls and who doesn't. You'd be surprised at night, the calls that we go to, that you got Crawfordville and Obey and Panacea are good, but there's other areas we go to, like River Sink up there, is you can hear the crickets. There was no volunteers
I guess
there.
the thing, and I'm not taking a position
Then you
either way
know.
on this, is that the firefighters are there with the truck. They can respond immediately rather than throwing
That's right.
boots on and driving to the firehouse. So there's again,
Oh, yeah.
I'm taking a side on it.
Well, back to that discussion of how much can we afford. and
Right.
et cetera.
Well, the firefighters to me is a little different because it's an MSBU. Do we feel that the $75 is being spent fairly? Do we feel that's a accurate number for citizens to pay, a reasonable number?
Does that pay
I
for the
think so.
full-time and the part-time?
Yes.
Yes,
Everything.
that's everything. That's where I go back to the lending thing, is not only would we be damaging our firefight if we don't do that, we're damaging our firefighting out 5 years, because then all of a sudden no equipment for your volunteers, none of that stuff, so.
I do have a question, though. If you're having difficulty getting a volunteer, and let's say you pay a full-time 20 to 1 over what you pay a volunteer, then we just raise the volunteer's number up, because he's always, at his pay level, he is always better than the pay of the full-time.
They get a stipend, don't they?
They get a stipend now.
Then basically, if it takes an increase in the
Well,
stipend...
here's the problem that you got.
Free radios.
Here's the problem you got. We got this problem right now. The last full storm that we had a limb fall down. I'm not going to say where. We had a limb fall down. It took 10 firefighters to pull that limb up.
10 volunteers.
10 volunteers. Guess what we got hit with?
I understand that.
10 stipends.
I understand.
And that happens every day around here. So understand, that's
Those are
a
things we
good
need to
thing, but it's a bad, and it's a matter. The problem that we've got right now is we've got too many unqualified volunteers, because in the past we just
What about if you...
handed out stuff. We've handed out thousands of dollars worth of equipment to volunteers that we got to try to get back and try to organize. So we're doing a lot of organization, especially on radios. We have spent there in the past on the volunteer side, Wakulla did not do a good job of holding folks accountable stuff. So what we're doing is trying to reverse that now and trying to get everybody accountable, and turn in your equipment, turn in your radios,
Then you need...
and assign radios.
Again, it goes into cost, but if you can hire a person to coordinate all the volunteers and save money...
Darcy.
Well, that's what we're doing. That's what CUFA's purpose. They're organizing the volunteers.
Basically, when the limb goes down, it needs to come into that coordinator, and he...
Yeah, sounds like a dispatch problem where okay, we got.
They all come out of one house where they're all sitting there in one firehouse. That's not a dispatch problem. Dispatch can't say, Ralph, you need to go to this.
Can't they call in, say en route? Oh, we've already got enough. Turn around.
If they're all 10 riding in the truck.
Yeah. They were all at the gas station at Wakulla Station, where a lot of them hang out.
I'm sorry, Dr. Kessler.
No, I was just going to that same thing as far as, what is the term for the person that's in charge at the scene?
Incident command.
Incident commander.
Right.
Yeah, it's impossible to address the situation that you point out, but the other one is, it should be the incident commander who says, we have enough.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How much is the stipend, by the way?
$10.
For what?
Per event.
Response.
For response.
That's my deal.
So, I mean, we're talking that, even that limb, we're only talking $100 when 10 people showed up. So, that flip side of that is no one shows up when we have a real problem, so.
But would $20 do it?
You
Probably
spent
not.
$22,000 last year on stipends.
Yeah.
How much?
22,000.
Well, that's not obscene to
2,200 responses.
have all the volunteers that we have.
That's what, 2,200 responses is what?
Yeah.
10 a
No, but he
8 a
said
day?
22, that doesn't mean it's 220 times 10.
Well, they're $10 each. They're $10 every time they respond.
So there's
Yeah.
2,200, there's 365 days in a year, so there's about 8 a day.
Well, you take that by, there's an average response with those guys is 2 to 3, 2 or 3 firemen show up and.
Well, we
get
only
them.
spent 22,000.
Now, here's what happens in a lot of our calls is, and even happens in Obey and in Crawfordville as well, is, our guys will show up with, and there'll be one volunteer fireman that have bought the truck, and then other volunteers show up after the fact. But we're usually there to respond fairly quickly when the volunteer firemen, which they have other things that they're doing, they may be in the woods hunting or whatever when they get the call. But it's a balancing act, and it's that's the reason. The only way I can do it to justify it is just like everything else. Is we're going to get. I've asked the chief and all the on Wakulla and everybody. Let's track how well everybody's responding, and then it is what it is, and we do the best we can do. It's okay. Here's where we could do that, but we can't do it overall in the county. Now, what do y'all want to do? You want to keep going the way you're at, or what do you want to do?
I think on the bills and vouchers this month, there's like $290, I think, was the highest volunteer stipend. Is that right? I mean,
And that was for all of them.
that's one person. I saw one person that I think got $290.
One person?
Whoa.
Well, what they do is they turn bills in essentially 2 times a year.
Right.
Every 6 months, they turn bills in.
Okay, so that
So
was a
that
6-month bill.
$290 is 6 months worth of that individual's
Yeah.
calls.
I mean, that's a cheap expense.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, who wants to go, I mean, you figure,
I
some of these
agree
guys are
with you.
spending more than $10 in gas round trip to go to this
I
call.
totally agree
So
with
it's
you.
costing them money. They're not making any money at
I'll do
$10 a trip.
anything to keep from having to hire a full-time person.
Yeah.
That's the reason we did the cross training.
We're also currently doing a stipend audit.
Yeah.
We've never done one before, and we're going back 2 years, and so we haven't completed our
22,000 the
review.
total cost. I mean, man.
Mr. David, a big thing in counties and cities today are they're all going bankrupt. And they're going bankrupt because of the retirement systems. A lot of counties and cities are moving their employees, or let's say new hires, over to 401. How difficult would that be for us to do?
The state right now is, we'll have to see this year, that's one of the bills that's going through the legislature that'll affect us. If they see that through, that'll be a good possibility then it all goes to 401k.
Now,
The only problem to that is this, is in good times, that was the one benefit of the public sector that was provided was a good retirement system. You sacrificed the money that you could make in the private sector because you wanted to pick up the good health, and you also wanted the retirement. So that, and saying that, I say that to say, that'll be a benefit that we actually lose to the county, because right now the sheriff's department is probably our biggest draw on our FRS. Our biggest drain down is on the FRS system, and what I would worry about is how does that affect the employee that we're going to get in the future, because realize they're capping what they can make, and they're really not getting much out of it, because in the 401k at that little bit of money
We leave our employees that we've got as
sure, that's the way it would work.
it's on the FRS, so not on the.
That's right, it's on the FRS system, not on us.
Wouldn't say one dime in county taxes. Now.
And we have that option now. I mean,
Yes, I just fixed to say, when I signed up, you could either choose a defined benefit plan, which is a regular standard time, or you could choose the defined
Contribution.
compensation investment plan, which is a 401k basically. I contribute to it, the state contributes to it. It's an investment plan. It's not a guaranteed retirement.
That's right.
They do it now, it's just voluntary.
Well, I think the legislature.
I understand that, but cities and counties around the country are going bankrupt.
But that's,
Cities and counties around the country are putting next hire on 401.
those are self-funded pension plans.
You guys are in
Yeah.
the state plan.
We're in the state-
You don't
we're in
have
the
a
state
local
plan.
retirement plan.
We don't have a
that
self-funded
option.
plan.
If we opt for something that could only cost more,
Yes, definitely.
yeah.
You guys are all in the state.
Yeah.
The ones that have issues are ones in Florida who opted out of the state and are self-funding at the local level.
I think, is South Choppy in the state? I can't remember.
Yes.
There was somebody around here.
I think Tallahassee themselves opted out.
I think Tallahassee opted out, yeah. I know the firefighters in Tallahassee, they have their own fund.
They got union,
They have their own fund, that's right. It's very successful, by the way.
Yes.
They don't even pay any social security either. Tallahassee firefighter.
They have a very well-run plan.
Again, unions involved in it too.
And I think the legislature is leaning towards all new hires probably won't get the option of one plan or the other. They'll all be the 401k type.
That's basically what I'm
defined
talking about.
contribution.
But that's a state decision.
The legislature will decide that.
Which has its own issues.
Just getting back to the boat ramps and access, like there are several areas in the county that may be available for the purchase or whatever. I know the Shell Point areas of interest. There's an area I used to be Howe Councils.
Yep. Spring Creek.
Spring Creek. Are there any, and you mentioned the one at the Upper Bridge.
Just looking through here.
Yeah, that's within our infrastructure. All those are in there, as well as the dismantling of the Brothers 3 ramp and possible purchase of the Bayside Marina and converting that into a ramp, so that a ramp/marina is in our infrastructure plan.
The last two, the Brothers 3 ramp that we put up, we're going to take down.
Well, the 3 ramp, yeah, it's in serious disrepair, and it's also dangerous where it's at.
Okay,
A 30-foot drop at the end of...
right. So are you planning on closing that ramp? Or?
Well, if we're able to purchase, or able to get another ramp somewhere in that area, yes, sir, that was the plan, to shut it down, because it's just not we don't have parking, and the ramp is dangerous in itself. Now, I do understand, Brent was telling me that the land next to the ramp, where I reckon the old Brothers 3 restaurant is for sale now. So that's what we're going to look at. But at the time, Bayside Marina is in foreclosure, and it still is in foreclosure. And we looked at the possibility of buying it pennies on the dollar, buying that and putting a ramp there. It's a much more safer area, as well as we have parking and we have marina slips that we could. I wouldn't be interested in the county necessarily running that, but maybe privatize, paying somebody to run it, and we getting the proceeds back from that. Or however you guys want to do it, but that was the thought, was to possibly purchase that and then shut down Brothers 3.
I'd also like to see continued improvements in Magic Sand to make it, bring more
Right.
tourists down from
Right.
go fishing from Clarn or whatever, like Chuck Shields' place, like I said, on the weekend. I mean, if we had a nice facility, it'd really help bring people down. And that kind of goes back to using these bid tax money, I think, in my mind, could be
Yeah, absolutely,
for that.
absolutely. So you mentioned two at the end, one was the Brothers, and then the other one was the Marina.
Bayside Marina, yeah, those are connected.
And the issue with Howe Councils, is that how much of an interest that is in the county there?
Well, I think it's in that book, but I taught, actually, the Mr. Council's daughter, I reckon it was, it called me, and I called her back. She had left a message, and I called her back, and she expressed interest of giving that to the county. And I called her back and left her a message that we would be interested, and gave her all my contact information. I've not heard anything from her.
A lot of things happening
So
over there.
March
Yeah.
5th, 2012, Commissioner Flamede direct staff to look for grant money to purchase the Spring Creek boat ramp.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be available, I don't know, as a gift, but it'll,
Well, even if it wasn't, you're right. That would be
right,
a charge.
and so that's the reason I brought that up, because it came to my attention that there was more interest now in moving this along than there was in the past.
Like I say, I return their phone call, and if they'll just give me a call, I'll bring the deal, bring a deal to you guys and see if you want to take it or not.
Well, it'd be a great,
I don't know if there's a deal with the state taxes or...
it would be a great facility for there's land there, there's land there as well as that, ramp. There's 30,
Downside is
there's
there's a
30,
house right there.
there's 30 sites, there's 30 slips on that. I do know that,
But that,
there's 30 slips.
but the interest,
Oh, I'd be glad to buy that.
and what do they call it, as a joint venture even, so give access to the county and someone could run it as, so the county doesn't have to be worried about running it.
And that's what I would suggest moving forward, like I was telling you about, if we were to, fortunate enough to do the bay side, is set it up, and then, like you said, you just do a JV to where we own the facility, but somebody runs the facility.
Heather, I'll ask Heather a question.
Get a check.
Yeah.
Right,
check.
because these boxes that I still see being destroyed by our ramps, it doesn't seem to be working out in some spots at least.
Some spots is tough, yes, sir. You're right. And we're going to be bringing a issue towards you guys, a possible way to catch them, but we'll be bringing that to you shortly as well. So,
Okay.
If you have the Skipper Bay would be a wonderful place for kayaks. Every third car going down 98's got a kayak on top of it. The ownership, according to the tax plat map, the ownership goes to a piece of private property at the very end. At the very end of the road at Skipper Bay. It seems like a particular person owns on both sides of it. Maybe he doesn't own that road going out there.
There's a county road that goes all the way to the
It's not a county road, it's Forest Service.
And we do maintain
And we have put a culvert in there, isn't
it. We
it?
maintain that road out about that bridge.
To the bridge, we actually put that bridge culvert in there. Box culvert was put in by us.
Yeah, but that's not far enough out.
No, I know what you're talking about first, that's actually cable up there.
Yeah.
That's Marshall Spears property?
Yeah.
I believe that is, yes.
Yep.
And there's actually there's several family areas in that.
Well, there's about 3 people who own property out there, but it seems like the road goes through, maybe he owns on both sides of the road.
Yeah, they own the whole deal.
They own the road, so you can't use that, you can't use the end, is that right? You can't use the end of the road?
Nowhere to park there either, if I remember.
Sir?
I don't think there's parking down there either.
Well, there's a little bit, there's enough.
I'll tell you, an alternate to that, Jerry, is my big plan about the cross from Action Sands.
Well, I do that, right? I do support that.
That's a perfect kayaking spot, right?
Yeah, it is.
I've been out there.
You've been out there, Heather?
Yeah.
You run across the...
How'd you get across that?
Well, no, we drove to where it's washed out.
You imagine if you could have kept driving.
Well, I want to support that.
she was telling me that today when she come in. She was thinking about that, driving in from Tallahassee.
That's what occupied
The
my
way she treats her car, she could
Not
use
gonna
it
give up
as
on
a
that
truck.
bridge. It's my fault that it's not fixed, by the way. I'll go ahead and take that right now. If I'd have been on my game, back when Hurricane Dennis, and I would have had a dump truck there the next day or two and filled it right back in, and it would have been a non-issue.
Did we get any money from FEMA on the stuff that we did?
Yeah. We're trickling in now, yes.
So we're going to get our money
I
back.
think we're going to get the majority of it. I think.
Good news.
If we can keep it. I'd like to, if you don't mind, if I know it's y'all's meeting, but planning and zoning issues. I had instructed when Louis came on we have a lot of things and he's been doing it, a lot of things in our land development code and everywhere else that needed to have some rewrites and updates, etc. And so far he has been knocking those off one at a time. And Louis has been working on, I believe it's chapter 5, Louis.
Yes,
Zoning. So you want to kind of tell them where you're at. I hate to be putting you on the spot, but and talk to you guys about that so that maybe you can give us your priorities as to what you want to see changed, updated, or not, or leave it alone, or whatever to do. But So, Louis, kind of give them an update of where you're at.
Well, I think David basically laid it out as one of the things we have to update is our zoning. There's a lot of inconsistencies. There's a lot of uses that are not listed. So rather than staff having to make a determination that this use sounds like this, so it goes in this category, those judgment calls, we're just doing a lot of clarification. So we want to bring you a draft fairly soon to Chapter 5 zoning. Long term, we really need to look at zoning holistically and getting rid of a lot of districts. We have a lot that are very similar, so we have too many zoning districts, but yeah, that's basically it, is just bringing back Chapter 5.
You
And
say that, you mean like, for example, they might have public and private recreation facilities as an allowable use in 3 different zones. You'll specify and say, get more specific, I guess, like a putt-putt golf, what it mean, what is that, or?
yeah, there's things like that we've thought about that aren't listed, like bike rentals. You know, that's not listed in any zoning district. There's things like churches are called various different things, and gas stations are called different things in different zoning districts. So there's been a lot of judgment calls that have had to be made in the past.
Where are we at on Crawfordville Town Plan zoning changes? That was really interesting to me, that it, you know, would allow, it wouldn't put any new restrictions, but it would allow a lot more things, incentives to do it. We have to first change our comp plan, right, to get the future land use designation, or is that even started, or?
Yeah, there's a little bit of both. I've been keeping tabs on what's going on in Crawfordville. It doesn't seem to be a lot of demand right now, and what I've been telling realtors and developers is if you have a project in Crawfordville that doesn't meet the code, let me know, and we'll work around, you know, perhaps getting variances and things like that, trying to get a feel for what's needed. So I didn't want anybody to feel like the restrictions there caused by zoning, I don't want that to stop anybody. But yeah, that does need to be done. We need to come up with zoning districts specific for Crawfordville.
Big thing to me would be for redevelopment. For example,
Yeah.
if Winn-Dixie knew they could cut an out parcel out of their parking lot and share the parking because of this new zoning we're talking about, instead of building somewhere else, they could get rid of the parking, you know, and at the same time we pick up some landscaping. Same thing with Ace. So I'd like to see that, you know, it ain't a huge rush, but I would like to see us move forward with implementing those incentives that we discussed.
We've
Yeah.
tried that with Winn-Dixie, Louis has beat their doors down and still can't get them to.
If I were Winn-Dixie,
Make
I wouldn't
money.
if I were Winn-Dixie, I wouldn't let you put something in front of me.
No, it's their land. We say we will allow it.
Allow them.
You wouldn't, if you owned a tract of land and we said you could put 2 new businesses out front here when you couldn't before?
I don't want to hide my business. I'm telling you, I'm not going to put my business behind.
But it's just like everybody else does, so.
Same difference.
But if you put like 2 little strip centers beside it, so you still see
You could
it.
possibly do that. Well, I'm just speaking from my own personal whatever.
The thing is, what we came up with was allow them to share parking.
That's right.
0 setbacks
Yeah.
in some areas. Now, another thing that has been hammered to me a lot of times by CRTPA, Harry Reid, is we maybe need to look at some setbacks requirements for right-of-way on 319. And I know that's not in our zoning right now. But if we are, you know, if a new business locates on 319, they have a minimum setback to allow for future right-of-way acquisition. That's not official.
And we haven't been doing that?
No.
See, I asked that question a couple of terms back.
Setback.
Well, yeah, but I asked that question a couple of terms back. Are we getting the right of way when we do these rezonings? Jeez.
Well, we look at the, they're not the latest DOT plans, but we try to look at that for when somebody comes in to make sure they're not putting any needed facilities in the right-of-way.
We
But
have been requesting an easement, at least I know in the case of the AutoZone, requesting an easement out in front's 319, so if we need to move our sewer there or whatever.
we've been looking at things
But
like
did we
that.
get it? Sounded like that was a
Yes,
request.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And then cross access easements, yes, those are being asked for, but what I was specifically talking about was the setback.
Right.
Just because, let's say you got a 50-foot setback and you set back 50 feet and then you can come back and get 20 feet, at least they don't take the building. You know, you'll
Oh, I
be
see.
closer to the road, but they're not happen to tear down a building. That's.
But the DOT, if they were going to 4-lane 319 now, like a place like AutoZone has already given up the land that's needed.
No, they have not given up anything. But they have, I believe, put it far enough off the road where the DOT would have to buy the building. That makes a
We
major
wouldn't have to
difference.
buy the building, but we still have to buy the land, and why aren't we automatically saying as a condition of doing this that we have to
Because
get
we
this?
don't know where to ask them, first of all.
Well, and I think
We do it
legally,
anywhere on 319.
Yeah, but I mean, how far back? They may have aligned it this way. There's an urban 4-lane section where they may not need any right-of-way. If we knew for sure that, especially with somebody like Walmart or somebody big, look, DOT has told us they're going to want this piece of land, you need to give it to us. I agree 100%. But if we don't know, what do we say? Give us 30 feet, give us...
well, a lot of times I think you have to compensate them for, if you're going to take land for right-of-way without, without paying them for it, yeah, I don't think you can do that.
But I was speaking to, especially on zoning changes, I don't think we should be giving any zoning changes on 319 that could potentially drive the cost of 4-laning 319 up when they have to go and buy additional right-of-way when we could have negotiated that.
You know, the funny
And I understand that, I'm sorry, one more second, Commissioner. I understand the not knowing that thing, but we could, we have a basic plan and we say, okay, let's say they decided there's going to be a median in there. So we work off maybe a compromised position, but we get something so that all that land doesn't have to be purchased.
Maybe an easement of some sort.
The biggest problem we got is our building across the street. I think whoever built that set it right up on top of the street.
Well, there's a plan for that that's being tossed around. I'm going to toss it around now. With a one-way pair plan, which would save us a lot of money on relocating sewer and utilities and right-of-way. And we talked to Harry Reid several times, right there in front of Ace and Azalea Park. You could split the road into 2 one-way pairs. It would double the commercial frontage on 319 right off the bat. It'd run right up to Wakulla Bank, right here down Old Clotney Street. The church annex building would have to be torn down.
So between these two buildings, between here and the courthouse?
Right, yep. Right by the dentist office, it dead ends right into the church. You have to get that property, and then come behind the funeral home and kind of back together. But I think in the long run, that would be...
Wouldn't that entail buying a lot of right-of-way coming that new street?
No, we already have it. We already have it.
Because there's 2 lanes there now, they'll just both go the same direction.
It's just like Bruno Street in Tallahassee, and I don't know where
And it would start up where?
right across of Ace. You know where they
I know where
splits
that
out
is.
right there?
Yeah.
Then you have a park as the median, right?
Yeah.
Another park is a median, a bank is a median, then it would come right through here. The courthouse is a median, then it would merge back together. And like I said, I like it because it makes everything on this side of the road now commercial road front.
So 4-lane from Ace to Tallahassee, and then double 2 pairs here.
And the reason why is exactly the building. Not the only reason why, but there's a severe right-of-way constraint right there. And not only that, we'll have hundreds of thousands of dollars in relocated utilities. Do a one-way pair, which would basically work with what's there.
The state would have hundreds of thousands of dollars.
No, we do. If it's our utility, we gotta pay to move it. If you do a
If
4-lane,
the state is building a road over our utility, we have to pay to move it.
because our utility's on their property. Yes. That's why I kept harping about saving money for utilities. Because if the DOT comes tomorrow and says, hey guys, we're gonna 4-lane your road, you need to go ahead and show us, you need to go ahead and move your sewer.
In 60 days.
Yeah. And, here's, where's your $5 million that you need to really pay your sewer?
My experience tells me that road on the backside of, we'll call it on the backside of 390 that you're talking about, sooner or later, the county will grow, and everybody and his brother will need an office space.
But we open up commercial.
It would open up commercial.
That is ideally situated, as it stands today, it's ideally situated for small attorney offices, insurance offices, service offices.
There's a park between the two of them. Most
It
of the
would be,
roads are really nice.
It would be nice. It would be nice to have that. That's not,
It's too bad you couldn't go ahead and push it on further north of Winn-Dixie, but then you get really expensive. talking about a lot of.
So you're talking about buying homes there at the end of Hudson Park to straighten out that leg? So you just buy that one section?
State by it, more or less.
Well, they're gonna want a right hand into 19. They don't do Ys anymore, so whatever happens up there at that end is gonna have to be, they never bring two roads together anymore. One road will right angle into the other.
Honestly, this is.
It'll merge out.
Yeah.
Well, how do you get on the second, you're coming south, how do you get on the second? Oh, you
To
just
go down and
Yeah.
go back and go up.
Okay, if you're coming south then,
One-way pairs.
okay, if you're coming south, you're gonna come down the right side, you're gonna
Correct.
come this way.
Yep.
So you just yield up, you just,
Merge right over. If
Okay.
you're going north, you'd be on the old
Not a
road
problem.
going north.
yeah, I
And
understand.
there's plenty of cross streets already there. Anyway, it would just solve a lot of right-of-way issues.
If you put that, if you did that, and you did that as O&I, office and institutional, as your zoning, here again.
Yep.
That's why we want to have the Crawfordville zoning districts in place, so when that starts happening, people can say, hey, I want this zoning district that doesn't fit anything else we have currently.
Great place for
The new zones.
attorneys and insurance officers,
Yep.
stuff like that.
It would add to, it would double your commercial area in that.
And those people who live there would benefit greatly because all of a sudden their properties would be worth more. Their houses would now could be used as an office space and so forth.
One of the things that, while we're talking about Crawfordville and planning, is the board last year passed the ordinance for the TIF, which is the, what's that?
Picture format, isn't it? TIF?
Tax increment financing. It's like a CRA. We've yet to enact that, and that's something that we'll have to bring that back to you guys, whether you want to do that or not. And what that's for is, within the boundaries of Crawfordville, is any incremental tax increases, the tax values begin to increase, do we carve out a percentage of that increase over the baseline and do that and have that for necessary improvements within the Crawfordville area? That's something that'll be coming back to you guys. I don't know whether we'll bring it back next whenever you guys want it to be brought back. But
It's really a moot point though unless property values are.
well, it's a moot point, but it's something we need to have set up, and now's the time to set it up when you have your baseline, so that when it does start coming back, you can. Now, there's positive sides to it, as you can use that for grant matching, and also planning dollars to do needed infrastructure improvements. You know, you can go one block off of here in Crawfordville and you're on dirt roads. We can expand the sewer system, the water systems, the paved roads, etc. Also do some work in the district. I would not recommend under any circumstances that we leverage that money because that's a definite trouble. That's where a lot of people got in trouble. Now, but the negative side of that is how does that affect the rest of the county citizens?
Let me give you an example, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong. Let's say the rollback rate, let's say our millage, what, today is 8.5. Next year, property values increase, and the rollback rate is 8.3.
Yeah.
8.3 to generate the same amount of tax dollars. Well, if we have this incremental tax thing, we got to take some of that out. So the rollback rate would not be 8.3, it'd be 8.4, for example, because some of that increase in value is dedicated only to this tax. That's to me, it only matters in increasing values, but it means you can't follow the exact rollback rate every year because the increase in value is going to this. Now, not countywide, just in that one area.
So basically, when you take,
Well, technically it's taken out before you roll back, but yeah, in the end of the day,
It'd have
it's the same effect.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the same effect, that's right.
you're going to have, in the town plan, you're going to have probably,
So it's taken out before the rollback is published in the paper.
in the next
But,
20 years.
you know, this is the problem with Crawfordville not being its own town, is we have to do the infrastructure work, and the problem that comes is then all of a sudden instead of having a fund there where the citizens of Crawfordville can basically do the improvements with their own with a portion of their own tax dollars, then all of a sudden the rest of the county, when, you know, as improvements are needed, everybody in the county pays for it. Is that fair as well? So, I mean, that's a tough issue.
Say that again.
Some of these work, well, if you're, say for instance, if Crawfordville was its own city, it wouldn't be that, you know, they could have to do the improvements themselves. But say for instance, we wanted to go out there today and do improvements. Number one is we don't have the dollars to put towards a grant match. But if we did, that grant match would come out of the entire coffers of the county, out of every citizen.
Our county doesn't.
That's right.
Exactly like.
Has there been any more?
That's right. But this way, you can carve a little bit out of that tax value, put over here in the bank. And I'm not advocating either way for it. I'm just saying it's a good way to finance improvements in a certain sector.
Any more chatter about Crawfordville Incorporated?
I haven't heard any.
Oh, yeah,
Tennessee is the only one. They're clamoring for it.
I tell you, I really don't like to be in a city myself, because you get taxed twice. I've got properties in other places where my city tax is as much as my county tax, and it hurts. I hate that city tax.
When I was in North Carolina, I did my share of paying that too.
I don't like it.
Tallahassee, for example, everybody that, even if you don't live in the city limits, you probably take advantage of everything that the city has to offer, even though you're not paying for it.
In a little town that I was in, we had 2 fire departments, city and county. We had 2 police departments, city and county. We still had a sheriff. Everything was double. We paid for it.
Next thing is the big issue of Wakulla Gardens. We have some money to do some resurface, or not resurface, pave some a loop road here and there starting next year in our 5-year plan. Currently, there's, you know, that's about it that we've got. We tried last year to you know, as all y'all know, we've mailed out ballots about improving the, you know, paving the roads, and then setting up a CRA for future improvements and other things. And we feel like we've done about everything that we can do for the Wakulla Gardens area, and we're still looking for grants and stuff, but those grants are slim and far and few between, if any ever exist. We've got Restore Act dollars designated to, you know, to run a force main up Spring Creek Road, and that would allow us to be able to come in and do some sewering. But you know, that's wishing on a star, kind of. But I mean, is there any direction y'all want to take on Wakulla Gardens other than what I've laid out as far
I'd say
as
the main roads? I think we agree to that. There's a couple of loop roads that I'd be happy to. Any number of people could tell you which ones are the main important ones. And
all right?
That's the same thing we did for Tapland for Magnolia Gardens.
Have you got?
Same thing we did for Lake Ellen, just pave a good way in the main road.
Do you have enough money to pave a main road?
Portion of a main road, yes, sir.
Well, then, my direction would pave whatever you can, because the school bus people are telling me that dust is just wearing their buses out. Ms. Jones says, do something for us.
What is it, Broken Bow or something? There's 3 roads in.
We already give them $200,000 of racetrack funds. They can use that to repair some brakes.
You know which
They've
one.
already paid off their loan with it. They keep it sitting, so that's okay. So when they start to complain, just tell them to use that.
So that's another source of revenue David just brought up, nobody ever talks about, is the racetrack fund.
Yeah.
But the legislature says we have to give it to them, right?
State statute, yeah.
It's not like we can do anything about
Who
it.
gets the racetrack fund?
So you're saying we have no control?
Well, we can't do anything about it.
It's just one of the things you always keep in your back pocket.
Right.
That would be my direction, is the main roads we can pave.
Yeah, and if you can't pave them all, pave what you can. Pave the busiest part of the busiest road.
Right.
We paved, it was Lower Branch at the time, but that made a huge difference in Wakulla Gardens.
Yeah.
Halflingers made a
How
huge
about
difference.
on your Restore Act funds, when you're talking about Wakulla Gardens, we've always been talking about Holden Ponds, what do you want to call them? Wastewater. What?
Stormwater.
Stormwater. The property to the south of Wakulla Gardens, the part that's on the east side, there's 100 and something acres that jams right up against Wakulla Gardens, and it's downhill. Be a great place for your stormwater. And you have.
It all takes money.
I know. Yeah, I know. But do you have that in your Restore Act request? Was that?
We have stormwater improvements, yes, sir.
Yeah. Do you have to identify where it is?
No.
Now that's one of those pieces of property that, when you get into stormwater for Wakulla Gardens, that will accommodate all the stormwater, all the problems of finding little lots and consolidating and drawing lines and so forth. That one piece of property would accommodate all the stormwater that we can ever generate out of Wakulla Gardens. And it's available now through the federal land bank. They had to take it back. So the price of it, here again, if we can get Restore Act money, that's probably one of the things I'd like to see, because otherwise we got to go begging for lots and consolidate it.
I'd
That's
rather
not
buy a
efficient.
Shell Point boat ramp road than that, any day of the week.
Well, I'd rather buy boat ramps myself. You've got the developer at Shell Point. He's gone.
He's gone.
Lost it. Hey, what's his name? H something.
Yeah.
Whatever his name is, he's gone. And it's on the market for $2.5 million. But the bottom line is, when that, and I don't know if bankruptcy cleared it out, but when that developer got permission to do his development, he agreed that that ramp there would be a county ramp.
Public access.
Public access.
Public access. Okay, well, all we need is public access. Now, the thing I ask is, does that destroy that agreement?
Is it within the PED that it was?
In their PUD document, it's not exactly clear whether all that stuff was incorporated in any sort of order.
It's not cut out as an out parcel, I know that, right? It's just.
No, it never was. It never was, and I don't think we ever got that, it's like you said, it's the right to use it, but even that wasn't clear. George Heaton never made that clear as far as, if it was busy down there, how much did the county get to use it versus his clientele?
Well, that was our mistake. That was our mistake when we let him do it. Now, the county, Randy and I, before I was elected, we were down there looking at the other side of the basin. The county owns a piece of property over there. So
One of the projects that we have in our capital the plan is, if we get funding, is to buy about an acre right there where the existing boat ramp is at Shell Point, and convert that into a parking area, and then add another boat ramp.
the access that we don't know where we have.
The access that we have, but we really don't have.
Okay.
That's it. And to purchase that and purchase an acre right around there and do some improvements there to provide a boat ramp for the folks there, because the problem is the Blue Dolphin boat ramp that we've on Blue Dolphin Drive is parking is a serious issue. There is no parking.
That's at Oyster Bay.
That's at Oyster Bay. But that's the only ramp that's there that is any type of public ramp. And it's also got its share of problems with the what's the
A lot
development?
of the basin.
Carnegie, yeah.
The basin.
Yeah.
But now we have access to that, right?
We have access to that, even though he wants us to pay him for that access, but he needs to first get his ramp off our property.
Now, I would support buying a piece of property next to that ramp
At Oyster Bay.
at Oyster Bay. If we can buy a piece of property to provide additional parking, because right now, you can park 3 boats there and you're done.
The problem is that's a problematic. He owns the bottom out there, and I'm afraid he would shut. Yeah.
He still owns it.
He owns the bottom, so I would caution us away from doing anything there, because that's dangerous.
Not much room there either.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Not much room there.
No, we'd have to buy it, okay. so-
And dead end in the neighborhood.
But I'm talking about over Shell Point, David.
Yep, and that's what I'm saying. We've got that in our plan. Yes, sir.
Are you, I'll ask you again, are you talking about using the ramp that we don't have?
Mhm.
The one that's there that we don't use.
Yeah, I mean, our plan is to build another ramp right beside it because
Oh,
you just have, you have dual ramps like we have at our other places.
we would build our
Higher
own
traffic. Yeah, at higher traffic, you just build another ramp right
I
beside
got
it.
you.
Now, we talking about where the old marina used to be?
Where the marina is now, the new marina.
Okay.
There's a ramp, you know, with the condos, the townhouses in, there's a ramp right
It's got
there.
a cable across it.
It's got a cable across it, yes, sir. And that acre of land would be basically, you know, that corner.
Then basically I would, okay, why are we doing that and not going across the street, going to the other side of that basin where we already own
Where
one?
the old marina was.
Because that way,
Exactly. Not exactly.
you're talking about that
The
peninsula.
weather station is.
Well, number one is then we don't have to have all the traffic go out in front of the beach in front of there. All the traffic can come in and out. They're very well situated where we don't have to pull everybody out in front of all those condos and everything.
Okay.
What's that, the old marina boat?
Wait a minute, I'm still confused.
And it's still
If you buy next to the ramp that's at the end of the condos, is that what you're talking about?
Mhm.
You're gonna have we're gonna have all the boats and everything coming and going in front of the condos.
No, you'll have them to the side because the condos are right here. They'll be right here.
Yeah, but you'll be pretty close, if you build a ramp next to the ramp, you're gonna be pretty close to the condos, right?
Well, yeah, but you're not interrupting them at all.
You're on the other side of the
No,
condos.
we're talking
Well, I'm
about,
talking about the townhouse. I'm talking about the townhouse.
yeah, you're talking about being right next to
The townhouses where the existing ramp is now
yeah.
will be to the east, west of those.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah,
Right.
there you go.
But more or less, you're next to that,
Well, you're next to it, but you're not actually in front of them, behind them, or anything. You're,
okay, I got you.
instead of having to
This
go out.
ramp will be between the new ramp and the condos. You'll be on the other side.
No, we'll just, all I'm saying is you got the ramp here, we'll build a ramp right beside it. So all you're doing is build another lane.
Now, your
pull
only
two
reason
boats
for
at a
doing
time.
that, though, is to to keep the people from the boats from going around on the other side.
That's right, that's
But
right.
we already own that property.
Well, I know it. But the problem is there's just not enough parking around
So
there.
that's definitely true. Yeah.
I mean, that's a problem that you run into.
I understand. Well, I'll support buying
Yeah.
that piece of property. And that's one of those things that will be here with us forever.
And I was gonna buy that out of Restore Act funds, by the way, so,
Well, right.
Game changer if we get that
sure.
change there.
Yeah,
So is the old ramp still there
no.
by the old marina? That's all gone? The one that was across from the old restaurant?
That's right.
That's all.
Okay.
Private land.
Yeah.
I'll give you one thing, the folks in the condos are not gonna be happy looking out next to them. They don't even want us to have access to the ramp that we have access to.
All right,
That's another story.
that's another story, is exactly right. All right, we got it figured out,
You
Randy.
got it, Randy.
I'm already seeing you this now, y'all keep talking.
Click on the satellite view over there in your top right.
I get a little closer to it. Here you got me so messed up, man.
He's ready to go fishing, that's what. Imagine how much it cost if to go. How much would Google cost if to go?
Wouldn't be for it.
All that free. Yeah. Absolutely. I zoomed in at the naval station in San Diego the other day. Man, you could just about read the ball caps on this resolution, so good.
There it is. So that boat ramp is gone, right?
Yeah.
Right,
That's what we're talking about.
that's right, exactly.
So you're talking about building on this side of that existing route?
Right in here.
That, and see about that acre right in there. If you would square all that off.
But we don't own any land there now?
If you get Restore Act funds, you need to also deepen that exit
Sure.
at the end of that canal.
Mhm.
Low tide.
here, or you talking about this? Right here?
Right.
Well, he says, and I agree, there's not enough parking out there.
There's not enough parking out there.
Where everything?
You can park 3 or 4 boats and that's about it. Or trailers. Now, one of the things that we are doing as well is we're going to be ramping up and getting back to where we're going to start maintaining our, now that we have a fund to possibly pay for it, is dredging, talking about that. We've let all our dredge maintenance permits lapse, so we're going to be getting those back. We got to spend a little bit of money to get those,
Do we get
so that
help
we
with
can.
that dredging? Do we
No.
have to dredge ourselves?
Yes.
Unless we can get FEMA to pay for it. I did that a couple times.
But the problem is if you don't have those permits in hand, it's hard to get forward. So we want to get them all in hand so that as we can dredge as need be.
We dredged the mouth of the National Sands, with the road department did excavated many times. That's where it gets bad, is the mouth of that excavated.
But one of the things we want the Restore Act to do is pay for some of that maintenance dredging.
How about the big problem, complaint I get is basically, let's say, Mash's Sands and the marina down at
Rock Landing.
Rock Landing. Is there anything that we can do immediately? Crum has a whole bunch of already formed concrete that he would like to drop in at the end. Of course, he can't.
Like a jetty, you talking about?
No, he has, like this desk, like he has 12-foot pieces of concrete that are 4 foot wide.
Brooks makes.
Pardon?
Yeah, Brooks made them.
Brooks makes.
There's already been dropped in at Rock Landing.
Have they?
Mhm.
So basically, I can back my boat farther down at Rock Landing?
A little bit, yeah.
Without
Are you talking
dropping
about
off?
to extend the ramp?
Yeah.
Okay.
I understand, we put stop signs up at Mash's Sands, or Brent did, put stop signs up there, and if you go past that, even if we were to put addition, you wouldn't be able to launch a boat because you'd be across the canal. You'd be bumping, you'd launch into the other side.
I can back up to your stop sign then.
Yeah, you can say the back of the stop signs, but now realize the depth out there is still very shallow.
Yeah.
But that's okay, but I can back up to you without
Yeah,
dropping.
you're safe. You won't drop off into the ramp.
Without dropping off the end of the ramp.
Yeah, if you got a 25-foot boat, it's a
The one
problem.
out at the lighthouse? That's not your deal.
That's not us.
That's refuge.
That's refuge. Okay.
What's wrong with that? I thought that was a good one.
It was too, you drop off.
I think it's good now. I think that one's been fixed.
Well, I mentioned it.
fishing in somewhere and,
Yeah, 'cause I launched my boat there, but I can't launch it at the upper river bridge, at the Wakulla River, like at low tide.
No, not at that.
not everybody has a 48-foot fountain boat.
25.
You couldn't launch up the upper bridge anyway, could you?
No,
How big is your boat?
25 feet.
That was a joke.
Changing the subject again on you guys. Building fees, last time we had met and we talked about, Dr. Kessler brought it up about doing something with the building fees. We're actually working on a spreadsheet to so that we can bring to you guys justification for lowering our building fees. One of the areas that we see that we need to work on is, it's kind of crazy, and I don't understand the exact history, and I don't really particularly care, other than it's just messed up, is somewhere down the line, they inverted what the commercial folks pay for a building permit fee. Currently, like if Walmart was to come in here, if they say for instance another Walmart was to come in, and you were going to build this room right here, y'all would have the same permit costs, which is crazy.
Electrical was
Right.
based on fixtures.
Yeah, so what we're going to do, one of the things we're going to do is reverse that and get it back the way it should be. Secondly, we're going to reduce our single-family dwelling building fee. It's a little higher than other counties. We want to bring that down, as well as we're looking at some of the smaller permit fees that are, I use the example, say for instance, if you wanted to hire a plumber to come in and replace your
Air conditioning.
commode or air conditioner.
See,
You know, you gotta pay a $350 permit between the JPA and all this other, not JPA, GPA. Too many acronyms. You paying that $350 for you even start, which is insane. We need to have that to where it's a better system. So thank y'all for bringing that up.
David, there was like, if it's a sub, whatever, $500, sub $1,000 cost, it'd just be a flat
That's right.
$15, whatever.
Yeah, we want to bring it down to where it makes sense, where people actually come in and start doing things right, versus we have a fee system now where it encourages them to cheat and not get it. And I understand that.
$40 for a permit to put in a window fan.
Yeah, yeah. See, that doesn't make sense. And the problem is you got somebody like Walmart that would come in, or a big box, or a big, like for instance, the Advanced AutoZone. I think they paid, I forgot what it was, like $2,500 in permit fees. You get ready to pull one for your house, and you're probably talking about the same thing. That's a bit much bigger. It takes more time, our time, and why that was ever changed, I don't know. I do know, but I can't say it here, so.
Well, you mentioned user fees earlier for the boat ramp.
I don't have a good handle on what areas do we have user fees and what areas do we not, like library,
Library, Parks and Recreation.
So what are the user fees? If someone wants to go to the library and just check out a book, do they have to have a card, and they have to pay for
the library is not a good one, because really technically only user fees we got there is when you don't return the the book on time. It's more of a fine. We have recreation. All recreation is a user fee, user-based fee. All your parks is a user base. Any of our facilities are user. Our boat ramps are user fee. The equestrian center, and past that, just about every.
The others, which ones are not? So like libraries, maybe the only.
Library is the only one that's not a user base. It's a drain on that, and
Department, I'm sure, doesn't pay for.
Well, let me clarify. I was going to say, you have different levels of user fees.
right.
The fire, I know it's not a user fee, but the MSBU fully funds that department.
Right.
Your Parks and Rec fee, user fee, it doesn't fully fund. It's
not an enterprise fund.
And it's not just our county, all over the place. You couldn't afford a Parks and Recreation fee
If you had to pay.
if you wanted to fully fund that department. It's always subsidized by. And so the question for you is, what level do you want it to be subsidized?
Same with boat ramps.
And I think the public perception, people tell me incorrectly, I'm sure, that we're paying our Parks and Rec user fee and the county is skimming some of that money, and
it's the opposite. That's right.
I'm sure.
Absolutely.
You need to have David, I asked David that same question, is where are the fees going? And are they in a separate account and whatever?
It boils down to a basic, to me, philosophical view of government. What is it? Should government's role be to provide Parks and Rec for kids? Or should it be strictly based off user fees? Should the government provide access to the water? I think yes. I think there is a role for government. Now that doesn't mean I'm a liberal or whatever, but
I think consistency, though, is a problem.
I agree.
If we tell people that you've got to pay to go fishing, but you don't have to pay to go to the library, I think we need some consistency there.
I think basically, I'm sort of like a user fee. If you use the product, then I may not want to go play ball. I may not want to. My family may not go play ball, and yet I've got a fee that I'm paying for you to play ball. I think if
you don't have kids in school, but you're paying 12 meals or 8 meals to have schools.
Yes.
But then the other flip side of that is, a lot of people come to Wakulla County because of the school. And, it'd be a lot easier to make the argument that I shouldn't pay school taxes if I was retired. I was Howard, for example.
No.
I shouldn't have to pay school taxes.
I won't buy that. I won't buy that, because somebody else paid for your kids to go to school. You can't.
I agree.
You can't take your kids. That's the old deal. Is that now that my kids are grown, I don't want to pay any more school taxes. That's just so much bull.
And you can also make the same argument. Well, I don't own a boat like you guys do, so I shouldn't have to pay any fees whatsoever associated with boat ramps. And
Actually, you shouldn't. Actually, with all due respect, you shouldn't.
That's part of life part of the quality of life thing for me is that I want to have boat ramps in my county, even if I don't use them, just to make, proud place to live.
And also make your property more valuable.
Well, if I ever do want to use it, that's fine. And the old saying is, don't tax you, don't tax me, tax that fellow behind the tree. But somebody's got to pay for that.
Well, I agree on boat ramps. The more of them we got, the better off we are.
So when we get a community center up and running, are we going to have a user fee for that?
Absolutely.
And if we've got user fees for everything, why not the library? And I'm not advocating for that. I'm just trying to figure out why it's okay for some people to pay their way in some areas.
You may not say it pay for itself, but say you charge $5 for a library card. Is that kind of what you're saying? I would personally go along with that.
Well, then if you make the argument for a user fee for schools, so let's put a user fee. I know we don't control the schools, but, some things we want to encourage and we want to feel that we have a social responsibility to do it. So do we want people reading books and reading on the computers and things?
Fishing, though, is his argument. We are
Exactly.
charging to fish.
Exactly.
We're not charging to read books and surf the internet for free.
Yeah, well, that could be looked at as maybe a luxury. If putting a boat in the water might be a luxury compared to fishing off your dock or something like that.
Or surfing the internet. Huh? Well, yeah.
When we did our indoctrination meeting, I guess, right after the election.
Did it work?
What's it called?
Brainwashing.
Better than propagandizing. Orientation. Okay. There we go. Indoctrination is not a bad word.
You're having some Kool-Aid.
Anyway, Scott Joyner gave a presentation, and I asked some questions, and he followed back up with me. Last year, 2,762 unique people used the library, according to him. It's a very small percentage of the population. It's available to everyone. So it goes back to the same argument. Maybe 2,762 people use boat ramps.
And they're paying to use those boat ramps.
They are.
And they're paying, that fee pays for improvements. I get your point. The more I listen to it, the more I agree with it, is that if we're going to, why shouldn't we charge some small amount to have that service?
And I'm not advocating that. On the other side, on the other side, I would probably more advocating let's get rid of the boat ramp fees if we want to find consistency.
How about
what I mean?
I go along with that.
All I'm trying to do is figure out, why is it good over here and not good over there?
Well, we're just about uniform on our fee charging. Maybe, how many people did you say, Scott?
2,762.
So you say 2,000 people use the library.
12,000 card holders and 2,762 use the library. So a little bit less than 1 out of 4 card holders, and
That's pretty good information.
less than 1% of the population.
Do you have to be a card holder to be counted as a person that used the library?
No, that's only if you check out a book, because you could use computers, there's other job searches.
Okay, so you might
We can give
be,
you those numbers as well. Let's see, circulated 83,000 items last year, and estimated 50,000 people walked through the door last year. And that's not unique visitors.
but that's a bunch of people using it.
Yeah.
50,000.
What's the historical precedence for that? Has the library typically been
A library.
Always,
It's a-
always,
yeah.
always. In any county, any state, any municipality, it's always been free. It's open to the
So
public.
don't leave here thinking that I'm calling for library fees. 'Cause
Stop saying it.
If the other side, all I'm saying is let's figure out
Not saying anything.
where the consistency is,
I think libraries are
and
different
back to
issue.
the consistency thing, the refuge, if you go to use their boat ramp, or if you go to Botany State Park and use their boat ramp, you pay a fee.
Or Chuck Shields.
Or Chuck Shields, you pay a fee. Or the
Yeah.
fort, you probably pay a fee.
Or you pay a fee at the
Yeah,
fort.
pay a fee.
So it is at least being consistent with the accepted norm, I guess.
And you pay a fee at the lighthouse.
Now I hear, and I don't know if this is true, but I hear that you don't pay at Franklin County. I've heard people say both ways, and I haven't looked into it myself.
I think what should be interesting as well, if we're going to hear about how to reduce the cost on these expensive collection boxes that we keep on losing, and if that's something that works. But then, how much money is actually collected? I think we need to know that. And is it worth
$17,700.
from the boxes?
No, from the time that we started, which was in June of last year.
And that's from the boxes.
Yes, sir.
not from paying it Ronald Fred's place.
Not from paying the wrong for his
Not yearly
rest.
fees. I guess, I don't know if Howard getting at this point is it maybe the collection box at the end of Bottoms Road, it's not a very nice ramp, you know, is it, how much money is it bringing?
Realize, yes, you're right, and it's $1,200 to replace those things, but
I believe your sheet said 12,000.
in the newspaper, yeah, I saw that. I meant to get it. It's $1,200. Now we did not put boxes at NT Smith as well as Brothers 3 because those are we either got to improve them to be able to charge there or not. These were at our facilities that were improved. Now, one of the things we're all going to be doing is hopefully improving those both of those ramps.
My question, I guess, is
What was the fee you talked about, Ronald Fred's?
for the yearly pass.
Well, yeah, what are you talking about?
What if there's a ramp that's so constrained that you really nothing you can do with it, like the one end of what road?
Brothers 3.
Brothers 3, and then for your old place, what is that road?
Levy Bay.
Levy Bay.
Levy Bay. That ramp there, you really can't do anything with it either.
Levy Bay, we just redid Levy Bay.
Well, there you go.
These fees paid for it. And see, that's what I'm saying, is we're using
But that box is destroyed already.
yeah.
You
And
extended it or whatever?
we cleaned it up and got it where it don't break axles. The point was,
It's really
is
just a
you had to,
sophisticated thing that they destroy.
we reached a point to where, one is we had to pull it all into a fund, but there was, realize it is, this dollars were coming out of the general fund to try to fix these things. So what do you do? And my thing is we're not raiding this fund. It doesn't go in the general fund. It goes straight into that fund. Every dollar that goes in, we're committed to spend that dollar at those boat ramps. So it's working perfectly. Now, one of the things we want to do is you'll be that you approved last week or 2 weeks ago was to advertise for a public hearing for the for enforcement of those fees. Okay, because we're having the honest people are paying, and you've got some son of a guns out there that are tearing it down and also aren't paying and refusing to pay because there's no enforcement. Is that right, Brent? All right.
Maybe we should talk too about the design of the box. If they cost, I mean,
We're looking at-
or a steel pipe, you take a chop saw and you cut an angle up on it.
Well, what do you think this is?
Have you seen the box
$1,200, what
at
is it?
St. Mark's,
We're-
the lighthouse? We're going
We're
to destroy that unless you got a cutting torch or a tank or something.
well. That's what.
Some of them have used sophisticated material to, tools to do it.
I understand this thing is poured with a lot of concrete and it's steel as well, and they found a way.
Bringing a grinder with them or something?
Well, what we're going to have to do is, number one, is I want to put up surveillance cameras. Okay, that's one of the things we want to bring back to you guys, as well as some low-level lighting in that area, so at night we can light it just a little bit.
Game camera, is that what you're talking
Well,
about?
game cameras and some places like some of our parks over here, we're going to put full-blown security cameras up.
When you, at your
We're gonna
parks
need a cage around
department,
the
if
game
you
camera.
have Wi-Fi at your parks department,
I had taken photos by Eliminator.
there's a camera that I
They
use.
did heavy-duty work.
Foscam or FOSCAM.
Concrete.
That's a camera that will have
Pipes
2 or 3
cut.
on it.
Personal
$100
challenge, more than getting money out.
And I can,
Oh, I don't think they were after the money. It was a byproduct.
Right there.
I can pull my house up right here, and that camera costs $100.
Sure, he's right. You can look at his wife right now in the house.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
Is it live or is it
live.
still?
Holy
If there's someone walking across,
That
you can see
camera
it.
is live. That camera costs $100, and I can change. I can change.
you want to know what's going on at your
I can change the direction of that camera from Toledo. It's live all the time. I have to really and truly, when you're fooling around the basement, you don't scratch your ear, because you're live. My son can see this camera from Atlanta. Anybody can get on this camera anywhere. It costs $100.
Anybody can get on.
I can give you a monthly fee? Sir?
What's your monthly fee?
Nothing. I pay nothing.
I'm about to say, my wife would not go for that.
No.
That's right.
I don't pay. It's free. It's called, the camera is Foscam, and the program that runs it is IPCam.
Certainly worth looking at it.
Yeah, Homeland Security subsidizes it.
Do not spend $800 for a camera If you can mount it on the side of the wall and you have Wi-Fi.
That's the secret key, though, I think, if you have Wi-Fi.
Well, that's-
Now, this, right now, it's operating off 3G, 3 and 4G. If I'm at the house, it's operating off Wi-Fi.
Right.
But at the park, it'll operate off 3G or Wi-Fi.
Right. Now, we also gotta have it at each one individual
Or a
location.
game camera, like I said, for that simple
Right.
places, maybe the infrared. We did that at the old drop site, you weren't around then, over there in, Wakulla Station, where people kept coming in there at night and messing it up. That thing's,
Yeah, we have serious problems at every one of our restroom facilities. Weekly at least, there's either a tore up commode, a tore up lavatory, something. I mean, it's unbelievable. We got to do something. And we've had the sheriff's department. We've told them to go increase their patrols, but they hide when the sheriffs go through them and they tear it up.
people do amazing
So
things.
it's amazing at what has went on.
Put you some signs up saying video.
Most of them can't even read.
Yeah,
We
that's
had the
a problem.
in-laws at an Easter egg hunt in church in Tallahassee, and somebody come out, broke windows out of cars and stole their purse at the church.
Oh, yeah.
So, huh? No, it was yesterday, like 2 days ago, yes.
I had
Bradfordville Road, Baptist Church.
I had a friend who ran a large restaurant chain, and their worst day of collections was on Sunday after church. People came into the restaurant, and they left without paying. They
Dine and dash.
They had to hire guides for the church.
That's why you don't take a Baptist fishing with you either. Now you gotta take two of them, I'm sorry. If you take one, they'll drink all your beer. If you take two, they won't drink none of them.
The difference between a Baptist and a Methodist in the liquor store is the Baptist won't speak to you.
All right, that's enough. This is being recorded. Sorry. All right, that's. Have y'all got anything else?
I think we're done. See y'all at 5.
See you in a few minutes.
So we know what to do going forward, huh?
Yes.
Clear as mud.
Clear as a.
Deal going out.